All right, welcome back to the Cheech and Manny show. I'm taking music out because now we are on our next true crime installment. Last episode, which is gonna come out pretty soon, hopefully as we speak, we delved into Richard Ramirez, the infamous Night Stalker. Tonight or today, we are going to delve into the son of Sam. So the son of Sam, aka Dave Berkowitz, and his terrorization of New York City. I got my true crime expert with me and co-host Cheech Carrero, the People's Bassist. How are you, brother?
Doing good, man. Had a great day off from the temple.
Yeah,
You
an
know,
off day from the temple is always great.
yeah, hung out with my beautiful daughter, practicing bass for this up and coming show we have coming up. And rewriting, this episode because I'm really excited about doing this. Son of Sam and I go way back to I lived it as a 7 year old or 6 year old.
How terrified were you?
Terrified, terrified. Because in the papers, you would hear about the killings and and it was always women, and it was women with black hair, and my mom, who was 25 years old, was in that age bracket, or 27 years old. I was so scared, like, oh my God, that's like my mom. But at the same time, I just had this interest in like, who is this guy? And it's the Bronx, and it's Queens and Brooklyn, and
And,
you know,
and that's really for all our audience out there that maybe are not from this Northeast area. That is really close to home. Like that's frightening. Like
and
I wouldn't go into Manhattan had this, you know.
oh, we're like, supposed to go to like see this. There was a big circus called like the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, and like we did make it to a Met game, and I talked about that on one of the podcasts. There was a big Cincinnati Reds Met game in the summer of Sam.
Right.
Pete Rose broke the record, and I brought it up to my mom today, and she's like, I did not want to go. She was like, I was petrified. But I remember my dad saying he's not going to kill anybody at Shea Stadium. It's not going to happen. He'll get stomped to death. And the twisted story is great. How he used to go, supposedly, from what Dee Snider said, and see Twisted Sister perform, and they recognized them in the papers. And Twisted Sister would be like mocking him, like, come on, motherfucker, son of Sam, we're gonna come on stage, we're gonna kill you, that kind of thing, so crazy. If you ever see,
And just looking at his picture, he seems like a Twisted Sister fan. Isn't Dee Snider Jewish?
yeah, yeah, son of
Is
Sam,
he? I just based on the way
yeah,
he speaks. He sounds like a New Yorker. Is he New York
yeah.
based?
Oh yeah,
Ah,
they're Long Island, they're Long
oh,
Island.
there we go. There we go. But I guess we'll get started. And before we do, as usual on our podcast, any shout outs, Cheech?
Yeah, shout out Potter's Field, my boys Vincenzo, Bobby, and Robbie. We had a great set at Freebirds.
This is Pottersfield BX, aka Bronx, which is kind of fitting to what we're going to be talking
Yeah,
about. And great band. Be sure to check them out.
thank you. We had a great show at Freebirds the other night, and I sent you a video of the house band doing the wait, which
Oh, that was amazing.
I was like, I got to get this on video. I got to get this because we
And,
just
and that's kind of coincidental
crazy. I was
because
in.
no one covers the way. I mean, it. I don't know. Let me rephrase that. To find it on like random night, especially when we talked about how our love of the band. I mean,
Yeah, and I was telling one of the guys, we just did a podcast. I think I gave him, the Cheech and Manny music show. I was in the bathroom and I started to hear that opening chords, and I'm like, I got to get up there and film this and send it to Manny, and I like ran upstairs. So and then we also have a gig coming up at Lucy's in Pleasantville, New York,
when is it? What date?
June 3rd. We start at 8:30. We got about a 45-minute set.
Okay.
Okay. And I'd also like to give a shout out to the one, the only, my main man, Manny Grossman, uh, for subscribing to our music channel, and I think he liked and he wrote a comment on uh what was the album? My brain is going blank.
Oh my, well, Manny Grossman, shout out to you, brother. And I love your comment on our Grace Under Pressure episode. And I'm just gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna assume that's what every Rush fan they love every album. But I'm gonna go on out on a limb and say that you, like me, you love Grace Under Pressure.
Yeah,
Because of all our episodes, you chose to comment on that one. So shout out to you. And yeah,
yeah,
Cheech and I love Grace Under Pressure and appreciate your comment.
yeah. Thank you, Manny Grossman, and we're going to talk a little bit about Manny Grossman. Manny Grossman, on the show tonight is the expert on the Son of Sam. I recommend
I'll
everybody,
link his channel below.
yeah, everyone watch his YouTube channel if you want to learn about so many things, so many different things about the Son of Sam case. And he is my influence to be a podcaster. Number one, after watching him, I was like, I want to be a podcaster. And then, being a Son of Sam freak, I was just blown away by every video he made. There's so much information in there. It's like there's too much to even mention. But check out it's called the Grossman Files, I believe. So Manny Grossman, thank you for the inspiration and thanks for the like and subscription on the Rush um, show. So we'll dive into the Son of Sam. Going to give you the backstory on him, and we'll talk about the victims and everything.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess we'll start there just for our audience out there. Cheech is gonna break down the biography,
Yep.
who the son of Sam was,
Hmm.
and then after that, he's gonna delve into an interesting sort of debate,
Yeah.
and then we'll provide some concluding remarks. But go ahead, my friend.
Okay. So David Richard Berkowitz, born on June 1st, 1953, the son of Sam, the 44 caliber killer. He started his killing spree in 1976 to 1977. 6 dead and wounded 7 others. He terrorized New York City for a year and a half. It was New York City's biggest manhunt in their history. And he left letters behind mocking the police. And there are rumors, of course, which made it even creepier, when I was a kid, that was tied, and these are rumors, of course, was tied to a satanic cult theory. He was arrested on August 10th in 1977, and for his shootings. And when he got arrested, this is what scared me the most as a kid, that he was being ordered to kill people by a Labrador dog by the name of Harvey, who was possessed. That it was his neighbor's dog, and the dog was telling him to kill. And that, as a little kid, I think really creeped me out. Like a dog is telling you to kill, like how freaking creepy is that? Um,
That's really creepy. I
but
will say I found this really cool quote that Berkowitz told CBS News in a rare 2017 television interview. He says here, I see that people will never understand where I come from. No matter how much I try to explain it, they wouldn't understand what it was like to walk in darkness.
yeah,
So, and you're gonna delve more into his process, no pun intended, and
yeah, yeah.
because of the process church, but
I recommend. I left this out in the intro. The Sons of Sam, a Descent into Darkness on Netflix. I don't know, you don't have to agree with the theories that are on there, but it's a really good documentary, well done. Focuses a lot on Maury Terry, but it gets a lot into, the killings, and it gets into certain things. It gets into the whole era of what was going on.
right.
There's a million documentaries on it, but this is a 4-part one, and it's really good. It's like the Ramirez one. A lot of information, but like I said, lot of it is probably not true, but it's a great documentary just on the son of Sam. Um, so what was it? He was baying orders from a dog down the street that was owned by Sam Carr. The dog's name was Harvey. It was a Labrador. But then he said that he didn't, and he made that up, which I read somewhere. And he the media frenzy was insane. He was all every single day that summer, all over the newspapers, all over the news. The son of Sam, the son of Sam. He became a bit of a celebrity that they made a son of Sam law that a prisoner cannot make any money from crazy people that want to meet him and stuff like that. You know what I
Right.
mean? Send them money or get an autograph, which is sick to me. And here's the biggest joke of it all. He became a evangelical Christian,
Yep.
and he says he was confused, and he was, a part of a violent satanic cult, and they were ritual murders. This is what he said.
Right.
And there's a Son of Sam fan club, and I don't know what that means. I don't know if these are just sick people that like are into what he did, or is it like true crime buffs? I have to look into that more. Just like I found that interesting. If they're a Son of Sam fan club for what he did, that's pretty twisted. I don't know, but the fact that it's a joke that he's a priest now and he holds services and like, isn't that after all the evil that he did, all the poor people that he killed? I have a list of all these victims and people that he shot and stuff. Like you're okay, yeah, okay. God forgives everybody. I don't know about that. I don't know about
Well,
this one.
you know what's funny as an aside? I mean, there wasn't when that Dahmer movie came out, Dahmer did something similar
Yeah,
where and I remember my family they got into this argument and you know, you have people like Sam Berkowitz, Jeffrey Dahmer that they convert to Christ according to
yeah,
themselves or whatever. Are they saved? What
yeah.
do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if I want to get into that whole thing.
No, it's crazy. You don't have to, but
When you
so my
when you
um
that much evil, you know,
I tried it's crazy because that's what I was overhearing their debate and they were getting at it, right? But it's just interesting, especially with Berkowitz, that he tried that, you know, way of finding Christ and claiming that he's changed and that it wasn't his fault and all that, which again, that's why this case is so compelling because it's really up to the audience and the viewer and the person listening. What do you make of it? Do you think he's telling the truth? Is he making it up? So, Cheech, you're on mute. Unmute yourself.
okay,
Okay. But anyway, so and really interesting too. I love how you said how he had a dog that was possessed by a demon,
yeah,
which is Sam Carr. His,
that was his neighbor. So he
yeah,
lived on Pine Street. If you know Yonkers,
right.
lived on Pine Street. And I don't remember. I've been to the apartments, like on my own Son of Sam tour on the way to Untermeyer. And I don't know how far down the house is. It's probably not that far where John and Michael Carr lived and Wheat Carr. They all lived in this house. I think they were apartments, and the big house. And they had a dog, Harvey, and the father's name was Sam. Hence comes, the name Son of Sam comes from
Uh,
dog.
I was gonna say, which is crazy.
It's really, really crazy. Okay, so I know we had a little technical issue, but yeah, so there's like a Son of Sam, but we were getting into the religious part of it, but like I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah,
But
I'm not taking a position. It's just crazy how these serial killers take that approach, and it could be anyone's guesses of what they were trying to accomplish, but
yeah,
but if we go, and again, you'll probably talk about it really quick, the demonic aspect, which
yeah,
if
oh
that's
yeah,
the case, do we want to pity them? Because most of them, for example, are sort of, if we believe that they are under the influence of something demonic, and I'll probably like try to talk about that later,
yeah.
maybe another episode, but yeah, who knows, right?
I think any killer is coming from a demonic,
Right.
whether you believe in God or the devil or whatever, a force of evil to take another person's life.
Yeah.
So
And in such a way as they did. I
oh
mean, it's one thing if you murder, right? Which is horrible. I mean, yeah. I mean, Cheech and I definitely believe in like, thou shalt not murder. But it's quite another to do it like they did.
oh
And
yeah,
in psychology, we call that those people. I mean, we talked about this, but we said, are serial killers psychopaths, right?
right,
Or sociopaths, but they
yeah,
lack empathy. So that normal center in our brains, which would, not kill someone the way they do. And that's why I think for many, including ourselves, there's a fascination with these individuals that lack that empathy, which is straight
yeah,
up
oh yeah,
extreme. It's not even, and it's not even that they lack empathy in that, they punch someone and they don't feel sorry.
right.
They take it a step further. I mean, we discussed Richard Ramirez, and I guess something really interesting is that Berkowitz, the son of Sam, he didn't rape his victims or anything.
No, no, he
No,
no, just shooting.
right.
He just shot.
Versus Ramirez, who is straight up definitely a malevolent force of evil
Oh
in
yeah,
many ways. Both of them are, but
yeah.
Ramirez definitely had that sex overdrive.
Yeah, we discussed his Ramirez when we get into the Ramirez episode. People will see we broke down what his disorder. Well, he had a disorder, with a parental lobe or whatever in his head, and he was hypersexual, and and then to me the big three, Son of Sam, Ramirez, and Dahmer were all sick in their own fucking like twisted way. They each had their own.
Wait,
It was
wait, this is Ramirez, Dahmer.
and the Son of Sam. To me, they're the big three. I mean, you could bring in Bundy and you can bring in Gacy, but like for me, those three have always been the ones I've studied a lot. I mean, Dahmer ate his victims.
And again, that's next level. Now, when we talk about serial killer hierarchy,
Yeah,
I mean, again, like that's Berkowitz is interesting. Like, even though he was horrible, as far as I know, he didn't rape his victims,
no, no,
he didn't eat them,
no.
or anything like that. He just, I mean, it's pretty scary though, just the fact that he was causing a shooting spree throughout New York City,
Yeah,
which you would think at that time, I mean, there's always shooting sprees in the city, sadly,
right.
but the way he went about it was terrorizing New York.
Yeah.
But I guess he's one of those classic serial killers. Well, and again, in his time period, this is interesting. When he was committing these murders, it was from July 1976 to
Mm-hmm.
July 1977,
Well,
and
I think it was August.
using
Oh, yeah, just to be technical, August 77.
August 77,
Yeah,
and then using a .44 caliber Bulldog revolver gun.
yeah.
So even the way, I mean, very, very interesting.
And I have a theory about that gun, but when I get to it, I I wonder where he got that gun because he was in the military, and I'm going to bring that up. And I think that might be a military gun. I got to ask our expert at the temple, Leslie, who was in the army. I meant to ask him that if a 44 caliber is military, and I think it is. So maybe it was something he brought back from when he was in the military.
And Cheech, and he killed his victims with that gun, right?
Yep, almost all of them. I don't know much about guns, but I don't know if there was a 22 caliber that might have been used. I might be off on the number, but I know that might have been used at some of the crimes.
Right,
But I
right.
think it was always the 44 Bulldog. You know,
Well, I
um,
will say the Bulldog gun, just some fun facts about it, is that it is considered one of the best-selling weapons of the 1970s and 1980s.
wow.
And its design and execution, which was modern at the time, caught the attention of the gun press and combat shooters. So he was using pretty much and it's relatively inexpensive. And it's a revolver. So it's one of those classic guns. Really easy. Put in the bullets, spin the thing, and just go.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe he didn't get it in the military. Maybe he just got it off the streets from the
Yeah,
street people.
yeah.
I don't know.
Best-selling gun during that time.
And we're gonna get into the whole Mayor Bean, whatever his name is. We talked about him on the rap episode. He was the mayor of the city, and it was pretty. New York City during this time was a mess. You know,
Well, I
you,
was
you
gonna say we touched upon it in our hip hop episode, which hopefully we
yeah,
can revisit and do a more in-depth analysis of those early days of hip hop because yeah, I remember in an interview with I think he was either Grandmaster Flash or one of his band members. They were saying that New York City looked like a war zone, many
yeah,
parts. Like it was
especially
really
Bronx.
horrible.
The Bronx, the South Bronx was a war zone. That's where hip hop, started and stuff. But New York, like 42nd Street, there was like
Wait, Cheech, did you grow up in New York?
no, I grew up, in Westchester, but I would go like on class trips and stuff, to the circus and we used to go to a church, Lady of Mount St. Carmel in Harlem, and we would drive, we'd take a bus, my family, and I'd be scared shitless. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to get out of the car. You see all kinds of, I never saw homeless people, till I was 7 years old in the city. But but the New York City it was like 42nd Street hookers and drug dealers and stuff.
Yeah, and just to quote the Grandmaster Flash, the message,
Oh yeah,
it's like a jungle sometimes. I feel like I'm going under. I mean, they were like, writing lyrics about that
this was the perfect storm in the 70s. And
to make to for a son of Sam Killer to
yeah,
just
and you had like Studio 54 going on. Had the whole disco scene, the whole that whole like craziness of the city. It
right.
was crazy times down there. I mean, I was a little kid. I had aunts and stuff that would tell me stories about the actual clubs and how crazy it was. Um, so we'll get into his life. Um, he was born Richard David Falco um, on June 1st, 1953, in Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York, which is crazy.
Within a few days, his mother gave him up for adoption. Now, it's interesting. His mother was divorced, but apparently she fooled around with a married man named Joseph Kleinman. And I guess, he impregnated her and he didn't want anything to do with her. So she decided to put him up for adoption. So he got adopted to Pearl and Nathan Berkowitz of the Bronx. So he's
Right.
born in Brooklyn, winds up in the Bronx. They were a Jewish family, probably in their middle years of life, in their 50s. God, I hate saying that. Am I in my middle years of life? I guess I am, man.
Dude, man, you are. I mean, I'm technically in my middle years, but
No,
then again, what would you kind? No, actually, maybe you. Well, no, I'm not in my middle
no,
years.
you're a child, man. I'm halfway dead. I'm 55.
Jeez, you're gonna live forever, brother.
Oh God, I hope so. For my kids' sake. Um, so he was adopted by them in a middle class family. They reversed his name, which is interesting. He was Richard David Berkowitz, but they named him David Richard Berkowitz. Um, and he grew up, in the Jewish tradition. He had a bar mitzvah, and I guess he went to the synagogue and all that stuff. He was bullied at school. The light bulb goes on there. Kids that get bullied.
Well,
We talked about a potential Columbine at at the temple.
sorry, not to make a
Uh,
joke out of that because it
you
horrible. It's
yeah,
horrible, but
we work with someone that you know,
I know because it scares me because well, we're not gonna go there, but
no.
I will
Or,
say,
or maybe he's a potential Berkowitz. Maybe.
dude, that's why. I mean, not to mention names, but that's why. I mean, I'm kind of nervous around him. I would
Yeah.
rather just be in his good graces. But that being said, or again, like, remember the song Jeremy from Pearl Jam?
Uh-huh.
I don't want to be
Yeah,
the ones that pick on him, like.
exactly.
But anyway, so from a psychological perspective, a few red flags spring up. First, abandonment.
Yep.
That's a major issue. Um, and along with abandonment, giving up for adoption, which is
Yeah.
another major issue. And then third, yeah, because he was bullied, he hated school and would run home every day. I
Yeah.
mean,
And,
no
and, it, and,
offense, you're creating something.
and it's going to get worse as he gets older. And when he hits his like mid, like 18, 20 years old, he's going to find out some things that are going to really make this monster. So this is what's creating the monster in the Son of Sam. And this is where we talked about, are you made a serial killer or are you born a serial killer?
I'm convinced you're made.
Yeah, I believe you're made. I don't think if you got
No,
two psychopathic people and you had them, if you got, you know, I'm trying to think of like a Charles Manson and uh, the Princess Bathory from the 14th century that was taking girls' blood and drinking their blood. And you made them two have a baby. Would they have a psychopathic child? You know, who knows? But I really think it's a man-made. Man-made. They're created by their upbringing, their
yeah,
child.
yeah.
So he was being picked on at school, and then he started to get into trouble, probably around 12 or 14, the young age. Started stealing and starting fires. This is interesting. This is a key point. He suffered a head injury as a child. Don't they all? Don't they all suffer a head injury of some kind? Dahmer got anesthesia issues and had brain damage when he was 6. Ramirez's father beat the shit out of him and made him brain dead. So once again, he fits it right, with those three, in that category. That's something that with those two other guys, he fits right in. So what happens is his adopted mother dies of cancer. So once again, maybe he loved her, his adopted mother. She's gone. She dies. He doesn't know about it. He doesn't even know he's adopted yet. He just, no, he definitely doesn't know he's adopted. So his real mother to him dies. Now his father remarries and he hates his stepmother. So here's where the
So wait, so what's happening? Wait, you're a mute. You're a mute. Wait,
sorry.
did you get a call?
No, no.
Uh-oh.
All right.
I'm telling you, you got to upgrade, man.
um. So he goes in the army. He gets back. He doesn't know what to do
Oh,
with
make sure
himself.
you go back to the mother because
Yeah.
everything got cut.
Okay, so where did it get cut? So is
Just
his
start
step?
with the mother, the father hating the stepmother.
Yeah. Well, no, he hated his stepmother.
Okay. Okay. So his stepfather, stepmother, he hated his stepmother, the Berko.
Yeah. His mother dies. He has a stepmother. He hates her. You know, he joins. He leaves he leaves home. He joins the army in 1971. Serves at Fort Knox. He's discharged, and that's my theory where he might have gotten the 44 caliber that he brought back with him. Then this is where it gets interesting, Manny. He locates his birth mother, Betty. She tells him everything. She said she put him up for adoption, tells him about the father not wanting him, her not wanting him. This makes him angry and pissed off at his mother and father. Now, Elliot Layton, have you ever heard of this psychiatrist?
No.
Said the discovery of his birth details are the primary crisis of his life and shattered his sense of identity. Right there is a big, I think, a big thing when he finds out that his mother didn't want him. Uh, his adopted mother dies, and he hates his new stepmother.
Right. So
Why does he shoot
it's like
women?
it sounds like a Cinderella story.
Yeah. Why does he shoot women? Hello, you know what I mean? He's got.
Yeah, yeah, and especially I think young women, right, too, like young.
Yeah. Now, do you agree with the psychiatrist that this is the primary crisis of his life? That those three
Oh yeah,
elements?
I mean that just even if he wasn't a serial killer, first of all, like it shatters his sense of identity. I'm telling you, first of all, being abandoned. I mean, I'll be honest with you, that's a good way. Abandoning a child is a good way to messing them up.
Yeah.
And then living with step parents that you particularly don't like, especially the mother, is
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
problem. And then just the fact that, he's trying to find the origin of himself and trying to find the truth. And that's a crisis.
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
mean, trying to form your identity, in my opinion, you're gonna have a hard time forming your identity if you don't have roots that lie in your parents.
Yeah. And he already is full of rage
Guilt and
and
shame, right?
messed up as a kid. He was stealing and lighting fires and getting into trouble.
Right.
And God knows what the army did to him. We
Well,
don't know what.
I was gonna say, similar to Richard Ramirez and his time in the
Yeah.
army. I mean,
I mean, he didn't fight. I mean, in 1971, like Vietnam and stuff was going on still, but he wasn't in battle or anything.
no,
God knows what he saw in the army, so
right,
maybe that might have had kind of influence. I don't know. Just
right.
throwing that out there.
A- And just to add something that you'll probably touch on later is the one thing that I discovered too with him. So already he has, and hopefully our episodes highlight the tumultuous upbringings of our case studies because I'll be honest with you, even if he wasn't a serial killer, dude, my dude will definitely have a severe case of bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety,
Yeah,
all like the negative affective, emotions just based on his upbringing.
yeah,
It sounds traumatic and
yeah,
similar to Richard Ramirez says. Although Richard was more violent,
yeah,
this dude is all about identity crisis and abandonment and not having secure attachment also, which and also it seems like the Jewish religion was forced upon him. Who knows if he wanted like his search for truth, if this is something that he wanted anyway. But
yeah,
because of this rage that you mentioned was growing, I'll be honest with you, it sows the seeds for an obsession with Satanism
yeah,
because Satan will be his father. So we follow that his father that he always wanted,
yeah,
and lost and mother, because obviously he's gonna hate women because of his mother issues, right? He has mommy issues,
yeah,
so that causes his rage against women, which most of his, even though you mentioned that there are some murders that involved men,
yeah. A
most of it targeted women.
couple of men got shot. But it was usually lovers lane kind of thing,
Right,
with you
right.
know, and one guy, was it Carl Denaro? I think he had long hair, and he thought maybe it was two women, and he shot at them. But I'm gonna get into the
Right.
murder.
But yeah, it's interesting. Just before we mentioned satanic panic, Satan panic, that yeah, it's gonna start his obsession with Satan and the occult, which is another common thing with a lot of these serial killers. Richard Ramirez,
Yeah.
famously with the pentagram.
But
Um,
with the Son of Sam, it's interesting because we don't, there's theories that it's satanic, and then there's theories that it's not satanic, that he's
right.
just a crazy person killing people. You know, of course, we'll get into the ultimate evil where that theory is placed, where he was in the cult and stuff like that,
Right.
and
Well,
then there
you being an expert, I mean, did he suffer isolation and loneliness?
probably is an only child.
I mean, did any girls want him or any potential?
I heard different stories. I heard that he was Disco Dave, that he was out there, he was trying to have fun, and then I heard other stories that he was just a loner and a weirdo. Different documentaries and you know um different theories. I'm not sure. I forget what Manny had said about him, Manny Grossman. I think they called him Disco Dave, where he had a lot of friends and stuff like that. So he might have definitely was friendly with people. He had this mischievous smile. I
I know
know.
it's like really creepy.
Yeah, he liked the celebrity. You know, he had that celebrity.
Well, think about it. He's getting attention when he
Yeah,
never got attention.
he never
I
had.
mean, it makes sense, but it's really distorted.
Yeah, he looks like the evil version of Andrew Dice Clay. It's like when you look at him in those pictures where he's got that smile. But so basically, where were we? So yeah, I was searching for a sense of identity and definitely mommy issues on this guy. So in 1975, he starts his career as a criminal. Um, so he's in his early 20s. He starts robbing people. Um, and he also, this is something has not been proven, but only he said it. This might have been his first attack. He attacked a female woman near a bridge somewhere, whatever bridge. I don't know what borough. Maybe the George Washington. I could be wrong. They didn't say what bridge when I did my research on this. He stabbed her 6 times. And supposedly he told the police about this after he was arrested. There he is.
He does look like Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah, there's an
Look,
Andrew Dice Clay for him.
look
I
at him.
don't.
Like he's looks so mischievous.
Oh man, and he's got that look like he's not even like.
Dude, in another lifetime, he would have been like a mob boss or something.
I know, it's crazy. Disco Dave. Um, so that arrest, that I mean that victim, I don't know if she ever came out, if people tried to get in contact with her. But he told the police that after he got caught. So we'll start with the first shooting. The first shooting was in Pelham Bay. I'm gonna got to get these names right. Jody Valentinus and Donna Loria. And I have a story about Donna Loria. Um, they were, I think, on their front porch. They were in high school, and he shot them. Donna Loria dies. Valentina lives. Um, and she couldn't give a description. Okay, and this is in July of 1976, I believe. So this is a year. This is the first one. It's a year go. It's going to be a whole year practically of this.
Wait, how old were you, brother?
I was in kindergarten. I was listening to Kiss Alive, painting my face like Paul Stanley, and playing with my mom's racquetball as a bass. As a guitar or bass. Listening to She by Kiss going insane, you know. Um, and the Donna Loria is interesting because remember Joe Del Vecchio at the temple?
Yes, yeah.
And he knew her. He was friends with her.
Wait, geez, you froze up a little bit. Go back.
Joe
So,
Del Vecchio went to high school with her. So
oh
he
shoot.
was in high school with her when she died and got murdered by the son of Sam.
Wait, geez, that was old Joe, right?
Yeah, old Joe. Yeah, Joe Del Vecchio. He knew Donna Loria. Remember him? He was a son of Sam guy too. He'd always talk because he lived in the
Wow.
Bronx and he was really scared too. He lived actually in Pelham Bay, but when that was going on, you know, he had just graduated. He might have been a little bit older, but he said he knew her pretty good and he was devastated. So that was the first shooting. Now the second shooting is that's July. So the son of Sam waits till October, and Carl De Niro and Rosemary Keenan get shot in Queens. They
Mm.
were parked like at a lover's lane. They get shot from the back of the car. Um, and Keenan was okay, but Carl De Niro, very sad, needed a metal plate to replace part of his skull.
Mm.
And they did find the 44 uh, uh, bullets. So they had a lead at this point
Mhm.
in the car. I guess Floral Park, and then the next one was uh, hold on, Donna DeMasi and Joanne Lamina. Um, and this was November '76. They were both 16 and 18.
Mm.
They were not killed, but Lamina was paralyzed. How that's tragic. You know, a 16-year-old girl becomes a paraplegic.
Yeah,
So he
sad.
waits a couple more months. January '77. I gotta get these names right. Christine Frond and John Dial. I guess they were both like in a car, like a lover's lane thing. Frond is shot and she died. Dial, I'm saying these names wrong. I'm sorry. The Dial, Diel. How do you say that, Manny?
Delia?
Delia. He
How do you
lived.
spell it?
Diel.
Diel? Dial?
Yeah, he lived. He had minor injuries, um, but they did not see the killer. You know, the
Mm.
cops found a 44 caliber and said this is starting to, be connected. So they started to connect the dots and put it together.
Mhm.
Now I'm going to butcher this lady's name, and I apologize, but this is pretty scary. Virginia Voskerchayan,
Mm.
Voskerichin, and I'm sorry I can't pronounce it. I think she might have been Russian. She was a student at Columbia. And she was walking home, and he shot her in the head with the
Mm.
44 caliber, and he killed her. So at this point, they're seeing the 44 caliber show up, and this was March '78. So in the new year, he killed in January and in March,
Mm.
and then before that, November. So Mayor Bean has a press conference, and this is where it starts to get out there about the son of Sam,
Mhm.
and there's a serial killer out there. All victims are shot by the same gun. Um, uh, so, and it's a 44 Bulldog Magnum. Okay.
Mm.
So they put the first press conference out, and then I don't have a date. I didn't put a date on this one. This is, like I said, I really, out of respect for these people, want to get their names right. Uh, okay, yeah. Valentina Sorino and Alexander Esu. Um, they were sitting in the car and they were both killed. So two more people, dead. And I wish I had the date on that. I don't have the date when that happened. Oh, I'm sorry, I do. April. This happened in April. So going back January, March, and April. So now he's on a spree. Top fine, 44 caliber.
Hmm.
This is creepy. Now he's leaving letters. He left a letter at the crime scene near the bodies, and he identifies himself as the son of Sam.
Right.
Now,
And these letters are famous, right, Cheech?
oh, these letters are famous. You can find them on online. They're creepy, from the gutters of New York. Now, we talked about that theory. Now, the aqueduct in Yonkers runs, and underneath it is the gutters of New York, from the Hudson.
Hmm.
So he could be talking about the aqueduct on that. And he gets into really creepy stuff. Then he wrote another letter to a Daily News columnist named Jimmy Breslin. He wrote all this evil coded stuff to the guy. Uh, and some say, I'm not saying this, but some people say it's linked to a satanic cult. In
Hmm.
the letter, he left some signs that where, if there was a cult, it could be connected to Sam, Wicker, and Wheaties. Sam being, the dog, son of Sam,
Hmm.
or Sam Carr, the son. And we're going to talk about him. Wicker, which is a street in Yonkers, and Wheaties is what they called Sam Carr, the son, not the father. Okay. The next murder, Judy Placido and Sal Lupo. Oh, there wasn't a murder. I'm sorry. That was in June. They survived. And this is the one I remember the most. And that was in June. So he waits a little bit from April, kills in June.
Hmm.
Now he's gonna kill in July. And now this was all over the news. This one I remember the most. Out of all the other ones, like I don't remember a lot of them, but this one for some reason, because of the way this lady looked, she her name was Stacy Moskowitz and Robert Valenti. Robert Valenti and Stacy Moskowitz. Now Stacy Moskowitz is interesting. She's not a brunette, she's a blonde. That's why I remembered her.
Hmm.
Um so Stacy Moskowitz gets killed. Valenti loses an eye. So this is where his time is gonna get up. He's gonna get caught. A woman was walking her dog during the murder, or before the murder. She saw David Berkowitz walk by, and she felt really creeped out by this person. Um, she thought maybe when she went home she heard gunshots, and
Hmm.
she saw a car parked illegally. I don't know all the details of how this happened, but she called the police. Okay, so the police come. They don't see anything, but they see a car that's parked illegally, and they give him a ticket. So David Berkowitz gets a ticket on his car. Um, so if it wasn't for this lady calling the police, I don't even know the lady's name, he wouldn't have got caught. He
Hmm.
got caught basically because of the ticket. I'm going to get a little bit into this. Some very interesting theories on this. So he lives in Yonkers.
And just warn you, Cheech, we're at the halfway mark.
Oh, we got the Mr. Doubtfire on here.
No, we give me the episode under 1 hour.
Oh yeah, because I have a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we can do like part one and part two.
Tonight you want to do that, or you want to? Oh, we'll figure it out.
Well, just warning you, like halfway. No,
Yeah,
I'm saying like part one this week, and then we'll
right, right.
film part two.
I
Yeah.
got
Yeah. So you
Okay.
can be, this could be part one, could be the bio of
Yeah.
and like delve into like his murders.
Yep. So a woman by the name of Wheat Car, which is interesting, who lives down the street from the son of Sam, with John Carr and Michael Carr, and the father, Sam Carr, who owned the dog, worked at the Yonkers police station as a dispatcher, and she pretty much told the cops, "This guy's no good." He supposedly shot their dog Harvey, or was suspected of shooting the dog.
Hmm.
She kind of told them, told on him, and she worked at the police station.
Right.
But the theories about her brother John Carr and Michael Carr being a part of it doesn't make sense. Being in this cult thing, it doesn't make any sense. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I don't know, but some people it does. So he basically gets a ticket, and the police go to it. They go to his house on Pine Street, and they look in his car, and they find everything. They find the caliber, the gun. They find the letters, all the stuff that proves that it's him.
Hmm.
They wait for him to come out, um, and they bust him. And the Yonkers police waited for him to come out, and they bust him. They got all the stuff out of his car, and then when they got him in the car, he said, "Well, you got me." On 42 Pine Street in Yonkers, New York, and I've been to the actual building. I've been to that building and stuff. So this is all over the news, all over the TV. Like it was insane, man. It was like
Hmm.
once they got him, New York was celebrating. Like the Ramirez. Remember in the Ramirez episode when they got him at the bus station?
Hmm.
Ant on my phone. Okay. When they got Ramirez, it was like the World Series, somebody said, and they beat the shit out of Ramirez, but they didn't beat the shit out of Son of Sam. They should have.
I mean, New Yorkers would have done it.
If he got caught in the city, yeah, and they did it very smart because they waited. They didn't want to like go to his apartment and ask him questions. They had the evidence. They had the proof, fingerprints on the gun,
Hmm.
all that stuff. I'm not going to get into great detail on that, but all over the news. Um, and what is as you showed the pictures of his smile, he loved the attention, which is even sick. Somebody like would be like right like oh, I'm busted, I'm going to jail for the rest of my
Hmm.
life. I'm probably he's smiling like, oh, look at all this, like a celebrity. They saw the letters, I believe, in the car. um and his plan was to go, I remember my mother saying this, that she read it at that time being a little kid, was to go to the Hamptons and like shoot up a discotheque or something like that. So he was plotting more things. He had said that the dog was possessed and made him kill.
Hmm.
So there were rumors that he had schizophrenia. There were all this kind of stuff. Then he said no, the dog didn't, and he didn't plead guilty. He didn't plead insanity. I'm sorry. Um, After this, they had a sentencing, and he tried to jump out of the court window. I remember that he tried to like jump out of the window during the time it was going on.
Hmm.
He was sentenced to 25 years to life for each murder. So he's going, he's in jail for the rest of his pathetic life at this point now. So any questions up to that point where we're at? Because you said we're at the halfway mark.
Yeah. So I just want to say, like, his letters are definitely creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a perfect example of, just if I can read one so our audience can kind of get a sense of how creepy they are. He writes here, in their blood from the gutter, Sam's creation, point 44. Here are some names to help you along. Forward them to the inspector for use by NCIC, the Duke of Death, the Wicked King Wicker, 22 Disciples of Hell. Man, really disturbing. And it's like perfect
Now,
disturbing font.
yeah, that font is interesting because I forgot where he learned it, or there's rumors, like I said, this is not my opinion, but some people have said that everything you're saying, the 22 disciples of hell, was the cult that was, he put it in there. The Duke of Death was
Mm,
supposedly John Carr. Supposedly, like I said, this is not my opinion. This is just other people's opinions. Maury opinion in the book, The Ultimate Evil. So
mm.
he's given clues about like is this a satanic cult? It's really
Right.
creepy. So it's creeping people out, thinking it is cult related. Uh, you know, because the people that would go to Untermeyer Park and maybe witness activities. This is the theories that was going on.
Right. I mean, it's really just from a psychiatric or psychological point of view, I mean, it just shows you how disturbed he was.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they're perfect examples of creepy, where another one he says here, when Father Sam gets drunk, he gets mean, he beats his family. Sometimes he ties me up to the back of the house. Other times he locks me. Like it's just really creepy rambling.
Well, this is the theory that, and I'm not my theory that he didn't write it. That John Carr wrote it because they didn't know if David Berkowitz had that much intelligence to write something like that.
Right, which
It's almost like
I can see that.
it's a sick poetic like kind of twisted poem, in a way. It's insane, so you got to have intelligence to write it. So
Right.
that's where the theories come in. Did someone in the satanic cult, or I don't want to say that, but like a part of the group, write it? Because they say there was more people involved than just him, which might be true. Kind of like this
Right.
New England serial killer.
Right. Which again we can discuss on like part two, but I guess we'll focus on um the murders and
Yeah.
anything that you want to like focus on like his murder wise, murdering spree.
Well, this is interesting. Once he's in prison, I don't know how long, a year, less than a year, he mails a book of witchcraft to the police in North Dakota.
Hmm.
And he put a paper in it that said, Arliss Perry hunted, stalked, and slain. Now, Arliss Perry was a woman who was murdered at Stanford University in a very evil way, a satanic way. She was, real gruesome. They did horrible things to her. And he was saying he knew about this. Now, in order to know about that, you know, he would have been connected to this so-called satanic cult. And the police interviewed him on this, and they didn't make anything of it, and they just forgot about it. And they were like, "Oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about." But how did he know the information? How did he even know the lady's name? You know what I mean? Because it was in California. There wasn't like online and web, like web pages, Google back then. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
I find that kind of fascinating. But nothing came of it. So this is where it gets interesting, and we'll stop soon. When I don't know if he told the police this right away or if he waited until the 90s and told Maury, but eventually it comes out that he says he was in a satanic cult and he only killed two people.
Right.
And there was other cult members in North Dakota that were a part of this cult. He said that there was a lot of members, but the main member was John and Michael Carr, who
Mm.
were the leaders. Like I said, this is not my opinion.
Right.
This is just what he said. I know he definitely said it to Maury in the 90s. I don't know if he said it in the 80s or 70s after he got caught, or he didn't say anything. So this was definitely said. I don't know. I don't know the exact timeline, but I know he did tell Maury this. He also said that most of the and also some of the cult members were Yonkers police as well, and they were backed by the Process Church and the process church of final judgment funded the cult, and he took the fall for the cult. Okay, so this is what he's telling either Maury Terry or the police. Um, there are interviews with him saying this. Now, I don't believe the cult theory. After watching Manny Grossman's videos over and over, I used to when I read the Maury Terry book, The Ultimate Evil, which Manny you should definitely read. It's a
Mm,
great read. It gets into all the crazy stuff, from Manson to the Process Church and everything. So the Process Church also had something to do with Manson, according to Maury Terry. So they were a big kind of a culty church in England in the late '60s and did all kinds of wacky stuff.
hmm
But he, he's saying that they funded the cult and they were looking for lost souls to recruit people, kids that had nothing and brainwashed them, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't believe this, but the one thing that always intrigued me, John Carr, whether he knew Berkowitz in high school or they were friends at the time or whatever, he
mm,
didn't know who he was because he shot his dog, supposedly.
mm.
John Carr dies in North Dakota. I don't know how many months later, like maybe 6 months later. Now, I find that interesting. They said it was a suicide. How does he die? Why does he die? Then about a year and a half later, his brother Michael Carr dies. He gets run off the road.
Mm.
Okay. Now these are people that were supposedly in the cult. John Carr supposedly the leader, Michael Carr in there. But people always said that they weren't, that they were nice guys, they weren't killers or whatever, and Son of Sam did this on his own. So how do you feel about that? Isn't that like you think that's a coincidence that, like the Carr brothers die within a 2 year span after the death spree, and how Wheat Carr, the sister, rats out David Berkowitz to the police. She had something to do with him
Right,
getting busted,
right.
and he shoots their dog. So the Carrs are well
Well,
involved.
and the dog is the source of the demonic activity, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, it seems like a crazy story. I mean, I know the wasn't it like a claim that it was like a 6,000-year-old demon in the dog or something.
yeah, yeah. That's what
I
he.
mean, it just sounds. I mean, if we go with the cult demon idea or theory, I mean, it is strange.
It's bizarre. It's
It's
bizarre.
bizarre. And could it be Satan reclaiming his victims? Is it? It's just the whole incident. Yeah, I have to agree. It's bizarre. Like I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah,
Me and my interest in Satanism because of religion. It
yeah.
just if that's the case, there is a connection there, but it is one bizarre connection.
It's just so bizarre how the Carrs are involved, whether they're not involved or involved. You know what I mean? Like they're neighbors to the guy. He knew them, shot the dog. Wheat Carr tells on him, and then the brothers die. And it just was just
And no,
bizarre.
and it makes you one of the things that I know we touched upon. And by the way, for all our audience out there, this is just part one of the series.
Yeah,
A Son of Sam, I think you can do a lot. And you mentioned this. Was David Berkowitz the son of Sam? Did he act alone? Did he have help,
yeah,
especially in writing the letters?
yeah.
Was this the case of some sort of cult killing demon, Satan induced? It's part of the big mystery. And
Well, what made it become uh, a satanic cult thing was Maury Terry's book. And he interviewed him, and I'll get in that in the part two. He interviews him in prison and stuff like that. So and then
oh, and by the way, with the abuse, remember I told you one of the letters said abuse?
yeah,
So, um, and by the way, you know the Netflix series The Son of Sam's A Descent of Dark into Darkness?
yeah, that's what I was talking about. It's
Wait,
amazing.
that's Maury Terry.
That's mainly about Maury Terry's
It's
theory.
funny. So I thought that was like like a name together. It's Maury
Maury
Terry.
Terry, yeah. He actually worked in Portchester at the
That's
guy
that's pretty cool.
at one of the newspapers. He was a great journalist, and um, the book is amazing. The Ultimate Evil is a great book, but after seeing Manny's Grossman's videos, I totally agree with Manny that Maury Terry wrote a lot of stuff that didn't make sense that it would be a cult. He believed it was a cult.
Well,
And just a plug for Manny Grossman, there's a guy, Billy the Artist, and we'll talk more about him in other episodes,
hmm,
who needed money, and Maury Terry paid him money to get information. And this guy, Billy the Artist, basically gave him false information for money. He just made up stuff that, like, whether he was in the cult or he saw cult activities. And Maury Terry would say a name like was Joe Smo there, and he'd be like, no, no. Billy the Artist would say, yeah. Somebody would say a name, and then Billy the Artist would say, yeah, yeah, I knew that guy. And Maury Terry goes, yes, that guy was a part of the cult and stuff. So Maury Terry paid Billy the Artist, put him on a television show where they covered him up and stuff, and made him pretty much say that he was like in the cult or occult related. And then that now this is in the 90s, mind you, and this is the second edition of the Ultimate Evil. He added more stuff to it,
right,
and he added Billy the Artist. Billy the Artist hung out in Untermeyer Park. He lived there.
right.
He would do art and stuff, and he's seen a lot of stuff. He wasn't lying completely, but he definitely seen stuff. But he made a lot of bullshit up just to make money because he had a drug habit. So I wanted to plug that for Manny Grossman, because me and him were speaking earlier, and he said make sure you bring up Billy the Artist. So,
Right.
and definitely watch his video, Manny Grossman video on Billy the Artist. So he lied to Maury Terry. Maury Terry fell for it, put it in the book, The Ultimate Evil,
Mm.
and that's where the cult conspiracy comes up. So where we're at now is the death of Michael Carr and John Carr, and supposedly, a lot of members of the cult fled from the Process Church at this point. And is it a coincidence that the Carr brothers died? We could leave it off at that,
Mm.
and just say, we'll talk more on the what I got on the two schools of thought of the Maury Terry and the Manny Grossman.
And that could be like part two,
Yeah,
future part two for sure.
yeah,
Um, Also with the process church, dude, the um some of the people that started it were former members of Scientology.
yeah. Supposedly Michael Carr. This is why Michael Carr gets lumped into it. Was a Scientologist. So I don't know if it's because
And it's
Michael
crazy,
Carr.
Scientologists targeted people like Berkowitz. So, dude, that would not be far-fetched.
And who started Scientology? Oh, not Scientology. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of L. Ron Hubbard. What was that one?
That's the other one, Dianetics.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, but that is Scientology.
Is it Scientology? L. Ron.
Yes, based on his book Dianetics, which is
Okay.
weird.
And who was L. Ron Hubbard a student of?
Crowley?
Yes. So it goes back to that. So I don't know if Michael Carr was into Scientology, and Scientology was all over the place in the 70s. But then there's people that are really into Scientology that are like who I love, like the bass player Billy Sheehan. He's a Scientologist, and he said it changed his life. So not all crackpots are Scientologists. Billy Sheehan obviously isn't, it's just interesting. It's an interesting religion. I got into it a little bit just studying it. Found it
Mm.
too fucking weird, way, way, way too weird for me. I'm much rather have read Thelema by Crowley than Scientology any day.
Oh yeah, I mean, I studied the psychology of cults, and I hate to say, like both are cults. Aleister
Yeah,
Crowley is a cult of personality,
yeah,
in a way kind of dangerous, and I think maybe he was, but Scientology is just psychobabble dressed in religion, dressed in mental health. And there's a great movie
yeah.
called The Master starring Joaquin Phoenix that kind of talks about that. But if we believe, again, we're gonna talk about this in part two, and I'll offer my insights into it. But
Yeah.
I guess just final remarks, Cheech. So, what do we think? The Son of Sam.
Um, as of ending part one, before we get into two schools of thoughts in the next episode, he acted alone. I don't think he was, a in a cult or anything.
But does the cult theory does it have merit? Do you think that's
I definitely think it has some merit because there was definitely cult activity going on.
no? And
It,
also, Maury Tori, being influential as he is, was he a sensationalist? Do you think he sensationalized some things?
um, I, I think he did. I
And
mean, he believed Billy the artist who lied to him.
right.
And he was a journalist, and he didn't pick up on these lies. You would think the instincts would come in. Billy the artist lied to him and said all these fake facts just for money for a payday, as Manny Grossman put it. And Maury Terry went with it. And I don't want to give too much away, but they even went to the funeral of the guy who was the head of the Satanic Church.
Mm,
Billy the artist supposedly took Maury Terry to the funeral. Uh, where the guy who was the head of the Satanic Church was, and everybody there was supposedly a Satanist,
right.
and Moriarty believed him so much he paid him, talked about him in the book, and put him on television. That he was a former, I guess it said underneath, former Satanist. When I saw the clip of it, I do remember it on Current Affair. It might have been, you know, um, but he's an interesting character. I definitely recommend to get more in depth about Billy the Artist because he's very important in this, Maury Terry thing. Watch Manny Grossman's
Mm.
episode on Billy the Artist. He's quite a character. He's actually an entertaining guy. Uh, there was definitely satanic activity going on in Untermeyer Park. There's too many witnesses that came out. I know on Manny's show there was a woman. I think her name was Bernadette or something. She talked about it. I know people who in the 70s seen weird shit going on at that spot at Altemeyer. For those of you who know the spot, there's the unicorn and the lion and like the ruins of a castle where they did it. Um, a woman I worked with, son, was walking home, and they would do it late at night, like 4 o'clock in the morning, walking home on the aqueduct, and heard chanting, and saw lights coming out of there, fire, and somebody, people dressed in robes, and somebody saw him, and he ran. They were like looking at him and stuff.
Mm.
So there's definitely been witnesses from my experience that did go on, and this was during the time. This was in the 70s at that time. I definitely know, and I have a story, but I won't share it now. When I went to Untermeyer Park in the 80s, unless if you have time and you want me to share my Untermeyer Park story in the
No, go
Satanic.
ahead.
So in the 80s, I was in a heavy metal band with this guy Tony, who was a Son of Sam guy, and we just started talking. I'm 15 years old, 16 years old. This is only a few years later now. So he got caught in 77, 78. So this is like 1985. So he's like, yeah, my brother, his older brother knew people who were a part of this weird cult that did stuff in Untermeyer. And he took me to the spots. And this is still when Untermeyer was a dump. And I remember going into the area where that unicorn and lion is and seeing like some really disturbing shit like
And where is this?
Untermeyer Park in Yonkers.
Mm.
Um, and it's creepy. And it was creepier in the 80s. It was way creepier than when I went recently. I went like maybe about a year ago, and it's cleaned up now. And there's still graffiti and stuff, but when I looked in the thing and I said, "Oh, is it safe to be here?" And it's like 8 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "Yeah, it's safe. They're not around." But inside there was like weird shit, candles and like looked like rabbit bones or something like that. I was fucking freaked out. And this is in the heart of the satanic panic. So that shit went on there in the 80s too. didn't stop probably to the 2000s. So it definitely there was like weird satanic cult activity or kids, I don't know, high on angel dust doing weird shit, reading Anton LaVey's book, listening to Masters of Reality by Sabbath or Sabbath Bloody Sabbath,
Mhm.
getting high and doing rituals. And it didn't, and maybe it was just for fun. I don't thought on what are your thoughts on the Son of Sam?
Wait, so Cheech, you got cut off the past minute?
Okay.
So do you want to go
Uh,
back and just share what you were saying?
oh, I don't even remember what I was saying. I said, in Untermeyer Park, in the 70s was just, was it a cult, you know, or was it like just kids getting high in angel dust, listening to Masters of Reality and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath and just doing stupid shit,
Right,
lighting candles and reading Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible, or
right.
did anything, was there real cult stuff going on? And it really could have been, but
Oh,
not.
it's funny. I'm looking at pictures online. It looks beautiful.
Oh, go to the Son of Sam pictures. It'll freak you out.
Oh, I don't even want to because I'm
The
scared.
upside down crosses and um but I think it did go on in there, but it had nothing to do with the Son of Sam. Two separate two separate things, you know. But the Son of Sam, I think, did not act alone. I think he either had a partner or partners. That's my theory with that.
Right. And let's say he did. Now, geez, what motivated him to murder these girls and women? Like what motivated him?
Well, we're going back to the psychological aspect. Mommy problems. He's adopted. Finds out his mother gave him up. His real mother, who we thought was, dies of cancer.
Mm.
He hates his stepmother. He goes back to his mother to try to get information, and she tells him everything. I didn't want you. Your father didn't want you, and he hated her for that. He stopped talking to her, but he did have family. He stayed. He had family with his real sisters. He connected with, from that marriage. I mean, from that, from his real mother.
Right.
Uh,
Well, I will
and
say now that's the psychological perspective, and I'd agree. Like,
yeah,
me being also a fan of psych 100%. The odd part, and this is where I give more, and then we'll talk about that on the next episode on these differing viewpoints. Now, I'm both psychological,
right, right.
theological, and spiritually, and then philosophical, right? And I think that there's something because of that background, like I'll be honest with you, a lot of people suffer from mommy issues, though. That doesn't lead you to cause. Now, it may for sure.
Yeah,
It,
yeah, yeah.
it may, but
Point.
there's more to the picture. And I think the Satanism is, and I do believe Father Sam was a thing. So,
The,
and we'll jump into, and by the way, this is Manny's opinion on the matter. And again, and Cheech, my love of,
oh yeah,
my Satanism because in history of who Satan was, aka Lucifer. But on a side note, and when I say Satanism, I'm not Satanist, but just as part of the study of religion, I
you're the
think
furthest thing in the world from saying.
I was gonna say just a clarification, Satanist. I'm not a Satanist, so I don't want to be black. I'm gonna invent a new word. I don't want to be Black Sabbath, where people will be like, "Yeah, man, he's,"
You, you teach religion for a living, so
and like philosophy and like how to live the good life. But it is interesting. I think Sam, the son of Sam, I'll be honest with you, he is, as his calling card, some sort of Father Sam was motivating him, Cheech. I don't think, and it was asking him to murder pretty young women because usually that's the ideal sacrificial victim.
Right.
Usually demons want pretty young women.
Get into that,
And or pretty or young women in general, young.
getting into that dark world, exorcist mentality. Who knows? It could have been something like that. Um, or was he just a mental case from being bullied? Bringing in the bully aspect to it as a kid, and like starting off at a young age, though, like lighting fires and stealing. He already had this criminal mentality in him.
Right.
Could he
And in a
be?
way, and going back, he's in a way programmed to kill. So
Yeah,
definitely easy prey for a potential hungry demon. Or, and I'm not gonna cause, and if I ended here, potential bloodthirsty cult as well, if he didn't act alone, right? So
yeah. I mean, if there was a cult, and like I'm saying, I disagree with that theory, but he would be a prime sus. Uh,
yeah, like you would
uh,
be prey to like a
yeah,
Scientologist or
yeah,
a
any
processed church member or an Aleister Crowley. He could have
exactly.
joined his sex church.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, Cheech, is there any in music? Is there any songs about the Son of Sam? Metal songs?
I gotta look that up. I'm sure
We know that he was at a Twisted Sister concert.
that was definitely, it's got to be true, because if you rent the movie Twisted Fucking Sister, and they were all over the city in the 70s. They didn't make it yet. They were still playing the bars in 77, 78. They played Queens and Brooklyn a lot. At the back when you had a CD, this wouldn't be in the documentary. You'd have to have this on CD. You'd have the special features. And there was one where I don't know if I think it was D. Snyder. Now I'm thinking maybe it was JJ French, because JJ, I don't know. And they said that, yeah, when they saw the picture, that smile, they were like, "Holy shit, this dude used to come to our show. He was coming to our show, sitting in the front row, and we're like, Son of Sam, motherfucker, come on stage, we'll kill you right now," because they were bad at it back then. They were putting microphones through the roofs of the bars. Like, Twisted Sister was no joke. They were the biggest band in New York in the late.
And people forget about that. Like they usually classify them as like, first of all, a novelty act, which is far from that. I think they're a great metal band.
Yeah.
But also one hit wonder with We're Not Gonna Take It. So you
Well, you got to go back. You got to, getting off the Sun is, well, it's part of Sun Sam. We always got to throw in our music. The Twisted Sisters' first album, Under the Blade, is heavy. It was produced by Pete Way from UFO.
wow, and that's a great
Yeah.
credential.
And um, there was a rumor, was it Eddie Kramer discovered them maybe in Portchester? They
Wait,
played,
Eddie, the famous Jimi Hendrix producer.
yeah, they played Portchester all the time. There was a bar called Detroit's where the temple is. Across from the temple in Portchester was a classic bar,
Wait, what's the album called that was produced by the guy from UFO?
Under the Blade.
Uh-huh, and you say it's heavy.
It's heavy. And then the next album, Stay Hung. I'm sorry, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, is really heavy. So leading up to Stay Hungry, which is like, a good album, a commercial album. It's a good album, it's my high school years, but people forget how heavy that they were and how they struggled. Listen to the song The Price. D is singing about his struggles, how they struggled to get a record deal, how they made it. And this is during New Wobbin. This is going back to our New Wobbin
I,
episode. This
I was gonna say,
Wobbin,
but Twisted Sister reminds me sort of like a Kiss kind of band.
yeah, but this is during the time of New Wobbin. So in 1977, 78, Twisted Sisters playing the clubs in New York,
Right,
and mainly stayed in New York. They might have ventured to Jersey.
right.
Over in England is this massive, massive movement, the new wave of British heavy metal.
Wait, had the new wave of British heavy metal begun?
Oh yeah, it was in full force in 1970.
So pretty much they were taking over the American bands.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
then
it wasn't until Twisted Sister released Stay Hungry that they managed to get, I think, it wasn't a top one hit, but it was definitely top.
I would say you can't stop rock and roll. You can't stop rock and roll came out in 1982 or 83.
Right.
That would have been like when the new Wobbin bands were signed and popular, like Iron Maiden and
But
Def.
that album is not popular as far
That
as I know. It doesn't enter.
Can't stop rock and roll. Oh, it was very popular in my
So you
time.
will know because you're the expert. Okay.
In my time, like everyone had it.
Now, is that sound a new Wobbin sound?
No, no, no. Twisted Sister is not
How would you classify their sound?
Kiss. Uh,
Okay, so I was right.
Yeah, yeah. They're
It's
definitely
like that. It's a weird mix of like,
New York Dolls, Kiss.
yeah, like heavy rock and roll, talking about all sorts of, interesting subject matter
Yeah,
and youthful rebellion. That's the way like Kiss was good at that.
yeah, yeah. And
If I can quote Cheap Trick, they in the song Surrender, Mommy's all right, Daddy's all right. I got my Kiss they got the Kiss records out.
and I told you I took a break from Twisted Sister because of my past experience with a certain experience. But I'm glad to talk about it because Twisted Sister was a huge part of my childhood
Amazing.
and stuff. So they're a great band and stuff. I stopped listening to them for a couple years, but I just revisited Under the Blade, and it's great. So, but yeah, that's just a fun fact about not fun fact, but just a fact about David Berkowitz being at their shows. If it's even true, maybe it was a guy that looked like him, but
I mean, it's a great rock and roll urban legend. And then
yeah,
there's a connection also with, usually, for example, the Beatles song Helter Skelter, I think was based on the Manson murders. We discovered that Richard Ramirez wore AC/DC shirt and hat.
oh yeah,
So
yeah,
and their song Prowler is also interesting.
yeah,
So it's interesting the connections between,
music.
rock and heavy metal music
Oh,
and
this is the funny one. This is the one, and this is the shout out to Manny Grossman that Manny always brings up. Manny, as we know, is a Rush fan. Uh, Maury Terry calls Rush satanic in the Ultimate Evil because of the pentagram.
and it's crazy. And that's for me, it's crazy because that pentagram has an interesting, from a symbolic and symbolism point of view, it has an interesting history.
Yeah,
And it's associated with the inversion idea of that's then associated with Satanism.
yeah,
But the way, and it's funny because the Star Child is looking at that pentagram, and we can go into and next maybe Rush episode we can talk about their logo and
yeah.
delve into an episode behind the philosophy behind the Star Child and the pentagram. But it's not, he got it wrong.
Oh, Maury Terry had no clue about music.
Morituri, like now you make me question your ideas. No, I'm kidding, but I'm like you
No,
got it wrong.
Maury Terry is talking about like I mean Black Sabbath. He brought up. I think he brought Sabbath up, and I don't even know. Maybe Maiden is in it. I forget, but Rush is in it, and that always pissed me off too. And I remember watching, Manny Grossman for the first time, and he brought that up, and I was like, God, I love this guy. I love this guy. He's bringing up, Rush, and but Maury Terry he was an old man at the time. He
No, no,
wasn't
I get it. I get it.
he wasn't an old man, but he wasn't hip to heavy metal or anything. He didn't know what he was talking about. But that's the kind of BS he might have put in the book, not knowing the facts.
And that's a little you know, problematic because and just a quick we can't go on any Cheech and Manny show without talking about the symbol. But you look at the symbol and you think it's satanic, it's witchcraft, and it's kind of sad because then you don't realize, for example, you gotta really look into this and
Yeah,
what exactly that symbol means. And I think it's pretty cool. And the fact that they debuted it on 2112,
yeah,
which is, you know, free will. I always thought that
yeah.
that symbol had to do with, free will.
Goes back to Ayn Rand,
Right.
that whole thing. going back to our Rush 2112 episode.
And it's crazy because as far as I know, Rush, I mean, I discovered Rush are kind of religious, but I don't think Neil Peart would
No,
admit that.
yeah.
But it's, Rush's Starman logo. First of all, it's sort of similar to it's entered the subconscious of like those iconic symbols. The Starman is really cool.
Oh yeah.
And and
Every,
by the way, Star Child is going so he's going against tyranny.
yeah.
And the star, which is like red, right, was a
Mhm.
symbol of the bad guys in 2112. So again, just a little rant here, but
Right,
or
right.
Terry
Looking
got it
at it.
wrong with our favorite band.
Yeah. But yeah, and just to show you where Maury got his facts wrong. Rush is not. I say
Which is okay. I mean, we get our facts wrong too.
no, but like to go back to like the theory about Satanism, and the whole
Oh, right.
you know
And to give him credit though, Satanic Panic, that was a thing.
it was a thing, but just like Billy the artist fed him bullshit and he believed it. He's spewing out bullshit about Rush, saying they're satanic and don't let your kids listen to Rush. I mean, so yeah, I love the ultimate evil, but the more I think about it, he definitely got it wrong.
Right,
You
right,
know.
right,
So,
right.
but
On that
anyway,
note,
on that note, we covered a lot, and this is a lot of fun. And I guess we'll do,
part one of the epic Son of Sam, and then on the
we'll,
next true crime episode, we'll delve into some of the versus theories and then let
yeah,
the
we'll talk
audience
about
decide what do you
we'll,
think.
we'll talk about Manny Grossman's wonderful
Well,
theory.
we definitely have to do a quick thing about Manny Grossman
Yeah.
and Maury Terry and
Yeah.
why these two are such pivotal players in this case,
Oh yeah.
and then figure out did Son of Sam work alone, or was he assisted? Did he have help? Was he part of a cult? Was
Yeah.
he on his own? Was the dog thing true? Did the dog, was there a father Sam? Stay tuned.
Well, there was a Father Sam, Sam Carr, but
But no, right, right. But was
yeah,
he the one that,
yeah,
Father Sam made me do it?
yeah. It's insane. I mean, there's so many things, and that's why I recommend we're not even really scratching the surface. Watch Manny Grossman's the Grossman Files. If you're a Son of Sam freak, he gets into details. I learned so much from him, so many things that Maury Terry never even covered, or things that he made Maury Terry like was proven wrong. Manny Grossman is a genius when it comes to the Son of Sam case. He's number one researcher on the Son of Sam. I think the best ever, ever. Better than Maury Terry. And so I recommend, if you're a true crime buff and you want to learn about this case, just watch the Manny Grossman. You could. I mean, I suggest read the Ultimate Evil too, because it's a good read, and there's some, you'll learn some facts in there about the process church and things like that. But I just think it was cool that Maury Terry worked in Portchester, and I think they say it on the Into the Darkness, the Son of Sam episode. You should definitely watch that.
Oh, I'm gonna watch it.
It
And it's just crazy how it's so close to home. And Portchester has a lot of history.
Yeah, yeah. He worked. I forget at the Gannett. I think it was called the Gannett. He was because he was a journalist. That's what he did, and the guy got so obsessed with the Son of Sam case, it took over his life. I almost
Which
felt
is
sorry.
it's an obsession, and it kind of Grossman. I wonder if he saw the movie Zodiac. I'm sure he did, because in that movie it shows you that one man obsessed with finding
Yeah,
the Zodiac killer, and it's
yeah,
an obsession which is great because it leads to more conversations and sort of like my
and,
my idea with this is that it I love talking about this because it makes me think of these serial killers and why would they do what they did? Like why?
yeah,
And
yeah,
in Berkowitz's case, there's definitely an element of the either paranormal or satanic, but we'll talk about that or psychological. Was it because of his upbringing and his involvement with certain things and people?
I
That's
mean,
what's so great.
Berkowitz is complexed.
It,
You know,
it really is.
there's
And
so
and it's
much.
very similar to like Chapman, the guy who killed like John Lennon, for example.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was he mysteriously was holding a book, a copy of
Catcher in the Rye.
Catcher in the Rye, and then he claimed that this was his destiny. And once again, like these people are, you know, we don't know what to make of it, and that's why there's such interesting conversations to have about them.
So sad. That's sad. John Lennon.
Yeah.
He was friend. He was actually John Lennon. He met John Lennon before he killed him. John Lennon, I think, gave him an autograph. If I'm
Right.
not mistaken. I mean, but the Son of Sam get compared to say, I mean, Dahmer's complexed. There's a lot of shit with Dahmer, but it's kind of cut and dry. We know about his upbringing. There's not all these interweaving things like with Son of Sam. Just these crazy, the Carr brothers, Wheat Car, the
Mhm.
dog, the cult, Untermeyer Park. It's like what the hell? And then there's all other stuff that you could see
Right.
on Manny
Right.
Postman channel that
Right.
I can't even.
And the fact that he terrorized New York. I mean, he terrorized.
He
I mean, it's hard to. I remember I was watching a special on serial killers, and before I knew really the Son of Sam, I got scared by the episode because that man, like, it's creepy, like being terrorized. Women were afraid to go outside.
yeah.
Nobody, even men, were at one point
No,
afraid.
no. And there was a blackout that year.
It's even scarier.
So like in July of '77, right before they caught him. Summer of Sam covers it in the movie. And I remember that blackout. I remember being a kid and like being, everyone, and this is in the heart of the Son of Sam, all over the news, really scared, and a couple of, my dad was telling me some stories. My dad said because my dad was a house painter and they were doing a job. And I think Berkowitz would go from job to job. He worked in I think he was like, he wasn't a mailman, but he worked at the post office. But he did some odd jobs. And he was on a job that my father worked at. And somebody had told my dad, after he got caught, he goes, "Remember that weird guy, David? Well, he's the Son of Sam." I was like,
Right.
holy shit.
Right. Yeah. And it makes me think, do we know any Son of Sams in our, not gonna mention names, but I usually have a good radar for like, I
And
think I told you this. I have two radars. One I'm not gonna talk about.
yeah,
Uh has to do with certain orientation, but like the Fenoik without going into too much details. And then I have a radar for potential, obviously because I'm saturated in psycho stuff and
yeah,
psychology, but I'll be honest, when I see certain people, I'm like, man, you are,
yeah,
I don't know, I'm kind of,
yeah. There might be. Well, remember the Dahmer kid who worked at the temple?
dude, I hate to say it, but
Well,
he looked like Dahmer. And he was strange.
he acted like Dahmer. He was like just creepy, and
I mean, either that, but he definitely he's hiding something in his basement, or
yeah,
either that, or he's really like, you ever know the band Weezer?
yeah, yeah,
Like the lead singer Rivers Cuomo looks a little strange,
yeah, yeah,
like just oddball. And I guess in Rivers Cuomo's case, he made a band, which is good.
yeah.
But you
Great band.
know,
Love Weezer.
I was gonna say we should do an episode on the Blue Album one day because Weezer and
Yeah,
Pinkerton. But yeah. So but anyway,
yeah,
so this has been the Cheech and Manny True Crime Show.
definitely.
Normally we are the music show, and we did talk about music. We made our obligatory Rush reference, so sorry
Or
to all Rush haters out there.
Twisted Sister story.
And
So,
Twisted Sister, which I'm
sorry,
reminded
Joe
how.
Milkman, about the Rush reference. Even on a true crime.
Yeah, sorry, sorry, Joe.
But
We have to do it.
but the Rush reference fits in because it's in the Ultimate Evil. So
Which, and for me, it fired in my thinking cylinders because, I love the Star Child symbol, and what a cool Rush has one of the most coolest logos. Like,
oh, yeah, Sims is a genius. He's one of
I mean, oh
the great.
man, but
Him, Derek Riggs and you Sims to me are the greatest artists for heavy metal
oh,
rock.
100%. Next to a Hypnosis and their creation,
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot Hypnosis. Yeah, yeah,
which is masterful. Just Houses of the Holy. Dark
Pink
Side of the
Floyd.
Moon, Wish You Were Here, Animals, which mostly Pink Floyd stuff, but
Yeah, yeah.
well, most of it Pink Floyd, but and I will say that with Rush, it's the yeah, it's just crazy how their use of the pentagram, people thought they were a satanic band, and far from it, because we discovered that 2112 might be a reference to John 2112, or who was it?
I think we proved that. We
With the
proved
temple on our Jesus Christ Superstar
that.
episode,
We proved
which
that they.
I think did that on purpose. He's a
I,
genius.
yeah.
I think he did that on purpose.
I,
Freedom, fight against tyranny and oppression, which it was. That's why it's odd when it's sad when people don't get it right.
yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely not. I mean, you look at the back of 2112. Yeah, they're pretty scary looking for the
Well,
set.
that is scary.
That's scarier than.
No offense. I wouldn't let no little kids near those three.
I was scared. I had 20. I had Boston's first album.
Dude, Getty looks scary. He looks like a witch.
I was more scared of Geddy Lee than I was of Gene Simmons on 2112. But I had three albums in 1976.
I was gonna say the back cover looks more scary.
because they had makeup on it. They look glam, which is funny. They
Which
look
and their music is not. I mean, maybe on the second half, maybe, but on
no,
that
but
first
they
half, they're
tried.
prog AF.
They
Like,
tried an image, and they tried different images all through the year.
well, to be fair, what they were trying to do, they were trying to copy the dress style of Yes,
Yeah,
Genesis,
good point.
which I'll be
Uh,
honest with you, that did not age well.
no.
And I don't know if you saw, I posted up a. First of all, we got to do an episode on Jethro Tull.
Oh yeah,
I shared you a video. I was in my story of him performing his iconic Aqua Lung.
yeah.
But did you see what he was wearing?
Oh yeah. They
It's like, man, like to forget Rush were trying to.
70s were pretty bad for some bands. I mean, you just look at the cover of Sabotage by Black Sabbath, and it's hysterical how Bill Ward looks with his bell bottoms. Like,
It's just I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, so again, join us for part two.
yeah,
Uh, maybe next week or we'll see when we film part
yeah,
two. But this
definitely.
this has been a fascinating
Yeah,
deep dive into Berkowitz,
so
aka the
many,
son of Sam.
so many avenues, and there's so many things and mysteries, and like you'll never know. We'll never know the real truth. Only, and you don't know, it's crazy. Like, only David Berkowitz knows.
No, and hopefully we'll have time in part two. He wants to distance himself from that. And what you
Yeah,
just said, he doesn't want to be associated with that because of his born againness, which
joke.
is interesting. And he claims it was he was walking in darkness. Like, is he telling the truth? Like, it's so hard to tell. And he's still alive, but he's serving life. I mean,
Yeah.
until he's not.
And the crazy thing is, he knows everything we're talking about. Everything Maury Terry was talking about, everything Manny Rose was talking. The son of Sam knows the answer, the real answer.
Right,
Somebody really does.
right, right.
But a lot of these cases, people are dead and gone, and you'll never know.
No, we won't. And we'll have people like experts like Manny Grossman, yourself talking about it. And I will say, I'm not a true crime expert, but I do love talking about it from a psychological perspective
Oh yeah,
because
like
it's so th and spiritual and theological. Because
yeah,
there is for Grossman's case, I think Ramirez was a straight up demon. He
Spears.
definitely was Satan incarnated.
Out
Um,
out of all of them, I think Ramirez looked like a friggin' demon.
oh, he looks scary.
Yeah, with the
He and
satanic.
apparently his victims, I was reading some of my
Oh no,
notes.
with the
He had
stuff.
horrible breath. He literally he had a horrible stench.
Yeah,
And it wasn't a stench where it was somebody that wouldn't shower. It's just like he had
yeah.
this strange smell. Like he's just strange.
And like the fact what he did is so evil. Like,
Well,
not
murder
Son of Sam isn't evil, shooting people in the head, but Ramirez, what he did to people.
and these two different East Coast, talk about East Coast versus West Coast
Yeah,
rappers and stuff. But we have Ramirez in the West Coast terrorizing LA and San Fran,
yeah,
and Mr. Berkowitz, the son of Sam, terrorizing the five boroughs.
Yeah,
I mean, which is more frightening? I'll be honest, Ramirez is more frightening, but Berkowitz, just for the after the fact stuff, just more shedding light. And what a
yeah.
strange individual and strange situation.
I mean, I think Ramirez is frightening because he was sneaking in your house at night. I mean, what's scary?
The Night Stalker.
Like somebody sneaking in your house,
That's scary.
or a killer who's supposedly associated with a satanic cult creeping out at night. They're both really, really scary. I mean, I don't know. And then my other, guy, Dahmer, eating people, eating
Well,
flesh.
that's and when we get to Dahmer, we'll get there like the Gacy's, which inspired and it's funny, it's tame by today's standards, but Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, not inspired by Gacy, but going back further about just cannibals
Yeah.
skinning Leatherface, which one serial killer inspired Leatherface from
Oh yeah, no. That was a real serial killer,
no,
Leatherface.
that's what I'm saying. Now
Yeah,
that is now next level, and I guess Ramirez, we kind of started really scary level with Ramirez.
yeah,
Berkowitz is definitely scary and definitely horrifying and horrible what he did, especially to the victims.
yeah.
But his type is different. And I wouldn't really know how to classify him,
No, no.
but and also a lot of untang. And it's crazy because I was also reading that the police wanted to wrap this case really quick. They were fine with pinning everything
Well,
on
I- that's so true. They just wanted it over because they wanted the biggest man.
But they left out the cars. They left out, what about, they should have psychiatrists like done multiple interviews with him and psychologists
Yeah, yeah,
and find out this man was troubled but it's crazy, but his upbringing, don't get me wrong, troubled, but not as troubled. Oh, I shouldn't say that. It was troubled for sure,
yeah,
but
yeah.
not as troubled as Ramirez's, where he was
No,
abused by his father, right?
and
And
his
he suffered abandonment, but that would have set him up for depression, trauma, alcoholism, drug abuse,
yeah,
but instead, or some sort of like, sex addiction or
yeah,
whatever. But instead, it pushed him to murder victims. And
yeah,
then that's why I always say, well, before I talk about it part two, without going into too much detail, but that's why I say there's something else involved, something more surreal and disturbing. But
yeah, yeah. I mean, it just it we'll never know. And now now. I love watching his interviews. If you go on YouTube, there's like a series of interviews
oh,
of him.
I don't like watching because they're creepy.
He kind of he talks, he tells the story. He swears he was in a satanic cult. He's telling you, I was in a cult, I was in Untermeyer. He names names, he names Sam Carr.
No, no, and if is conversion to Christianity is true, evangelical Christianity. If it's true, and he's genuine, he'd be telling the truth. Because that's what happens with most converts. A lot of them that were former Satanists
Yeah,
or occultists, or there's great interviews with former Satanists, for example, that come to Christianity and they talk about their experience and what they've done,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
horrifying things they've done for their cults, satanic cults.
yeah.
So again, if that's true, but the problem is we don't know.
I know. We'll
And he
never.
wants to distance himself from that because most likely he wants to get out or
Well, he got slashed. He's got a scar on his neck, like right around here. He got slashed in prison, like right when he got in, and that just could have been crazy prisoners getting him, because they were angry, or a connection, if there was one. And I'm saying, I don't believe it, but if there was one, it could have been a connection in prison to the cult to kill him, because maybe he was talking about that. See, this is where I don't know if he was talking about the cult thing after he got arrested, or just talking about a crazy dog talking about him. Was
when did that come out? After he got arrested or before?
that I don't know.
Well,
I
see, those are the mysteries where we would have to we'll delve in the
in,
next episode.
in the '90s with Maury Terry, you know, when he interviewed him, you could see the interviews but the interviews are kind of like yes, no. Were you in a satanic cult? And Son of Sam is like, yes.
Right,
Was Sam Carr the leader of the cult? Yes.
right.
Did you kill for sacrificial purposes? Yes. So it's not, he kind of pushes the answer out of them. So you don't know. But like I said, Dan, we could talk all night about all these little and there's you got to watch Manny Grossman's channel to get all the crazy details about other like Arliss Perry, um, the Billy the artist. These like characters that were there that are the guy. I don't know if I mentioned it. Carl Denaro. I don't know if I'm saying his name. The one who got shot by the son of Sam. He worked with Maury Terry because he was like, I didn't get shot by the son of Sam. I got shot by a cult. And he worked with Maury Terry and they started a Facebook and he was on his side for a while. And I believe Manny did interview him. He's still alive and so I don't know if Carl Denaro, if he believes it is still a cult thing. I don't know, but he was good friends with Maury. They worked together on this kind of thing. And another cop from Yonkers who was a cult expert. It's all on the documentary on Netflix. If you want that side of it, like I'm saying, there's two sides. If you want the cult side, watch the Netflix. It doesn't get it talks about all the murders and stuff, but it does get into Untermeyer, gets into cults, gets into Maury Terry's fucking twisted, crazy life. And then there's just the killer. Was he just a killer like Ramirez, which I think he was, but he might have had help. Not saying the Carr brothers helped them, but because there were other witnesses that said every sketch looks a little different of the police sketches of them, so. But on that note, I got the temple tomorrow and you want to get to bed because I know you had a hard day at work. And great episode. And I enjoyed the true crime stuff. And we did our updates in New England. And till next time, my man.
Cheech, till the next one, brother. This has been really, well, not fun, but for us, really fascinating discussion. And
And
hopefully
it's
the more of many to come. And we will
yeah,
do part two on the
yeah.
next true crime episode.
And it's such a new thing for us to do true crime. I love it.
I love it. Love it.
And
All
see
right,
you.
brother. Have a good night. As always, always a pleasure. This has been the Cheech and Manny Music Show. We are signing out. We are Cheech. I am Manny. Till the next one.
Peace.
Goodbye,
Bye.
my friend.
Take care. Hey, how's everybody doing? This is the Cheech and Manny show. And this is our true crime series. And we're going to be doing some updates on the New England serial killer. And here's my co host, Manner. How are you, Manny?
Cheech, what's going on, brother? Life is good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Doing good, man. Looking forward to this true crime stuff. We got a lot of stuff we're going to be doing tonight. Um,
It's crazy because we started off really strong. I mean, off the bat, we talked about the possible New England serial killer, which I know we've been going down a rabbit hole with that one, and we debunked some stuff. I just released a quick 30-minute episode, some update
yeah,
on some of the murders, and you're going to be providing another update on some of them, which is really cool. And then our Richard Ramirez episode
yeah, yeah.
was is coming up. Stay tuned, everybody. And for all our fans out there, let us know what you think of the true crime episodes. If you can like comment below and give us recommendations. I mean, Cheech and I mean, we're talking about really morbid stuff, but we've been having a blast with this and expect more to come.
Yep,
And today we have an exciting episode for all of you.
yep. So on the updates,
What do
not
you want to do any shout outs, brother?
we'll save that for the next the Son of Sam video.
Okay.
I got a lot. We're in the process of recording a Son of Sam video, which I'm anxious for. um, so I going back last week, we talked about the Taylor Swift Rhode Island incident, a
Right.
leg found near Taylor Swift's home. Now, the cops are definitely really getting serious on this because this is the biggest star in the world, you know,
Yeah.
and he's got security everywhere. Not that he's after he or they or what or nobody, because I don't know what to make of it anymore because there's just so many bodies showing up. It's crazy. So a leg shows up in Taylor Swift's area, and then there were two men last week that came out. One was a guy killed his girlfriend and chopped her up and put her in a cemetery in New Haven, I believe. And then another crazy guy, I don't know what state it was. He died of cancer, and
Oh,
before he
that
died,
was in Connecticut too.
that was Groton, and he killed his girlfriend, but then he died of cancer, which is like very strange. He died, he killed his girlfriend, and he dies of cancer. It's odd how somebody with cancer could do a violent deed like kill somebody. You would think that somebody who's about to die from cancer is weak. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I I I don't know. I'm not saying I question it, but who knows?
Yeah.
But this week, quick, there's not a lot of updates, and I'm going from the Facebook page, and these seem legitimate. Sometimes I wonder how legitimate they are,
Right.
Facebook page, and I still question if there is a serial killer, is that person on the Facebook page? Because I've been commenting a lot, and I'm just like, okay,
Don't tell them where you work.
nope, I will
You're gonna
not.
tell them temple, and they're gonna be like, "Yo, sign me up. What temple are you part of? I'm part of
The Temple of
I'm,
Ceres.
I'm part of the Process Church."
Yeah, right. So a dead body in New Haven Cemetery showed up. This is interesting. Last Friday, poor woman, God rest her soul, Nayshay Menendez, age 35, once again at the Evergreen Cemetery in New Haven. Now this is brutal. This is something out of Friday the 13th or Halloween. Stabbed in the head, the neck, and the torso.
Wait, Cheech. I think we talked about this last episode.
No, this is brand new.
Wait, what? What was her name?
Her name is
Nayshay Mendez?
yeah, yeah.
Wait a minute.
This happened on Friday.
Wait. It. I'm just saying. You said last Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, the
So what
gun.
happened after our podcast?
No way. But this is totally like, is that related to the New England serial killer? Like maybe possible suspect?
I mean, that's the question. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, and a man walking his dog found the body, but at 4 p.m. there was hundreds of people in the cemetery for a funeral. And the cops are saying there's no connection to the other murders. So a woman is stabbed in the head, the neck, and the throat again in a cemetery, a familiar cemetery where there's been other. Nobody was killed there before, but I think body parts were found there. So I don't know. What do you think? What do you think of this? I mean,
And and I'm assuming no one has found any leads for the killer.
no. This one.
She's
No.
a victim of the homicide. Also
Yeah,
in New Haven, that's scary.
yeah. This is in New Haven. Did I say New
That
Haven? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if it's because we're delving into this topic, but just the fact that this happened last Friday.
The day after we did our podcast, you know.
Right, and we were
But,
telling people be careful out there.
yeah. So it's another dead body, which would make 11 now that they know of that they found. But the question is it a coincidence that these dead bodies are showing up? Are people just getting this sick in the world and killing people every single day and dropping them off in New England? Or is it we like to theorize we're cult guys. Like, is it some kind of cult, whether some creepy cult, or is it just gang related or drug deals going bad and they're just dumping bodies, drug cartels and stuff like that?
Right. And the fact that a cemetery, another one is involved, it's kind of
Yeah.
weird.
I mean, I don't know what to think. I I still say in my mind it is serial killers, maybe in the same style as the smiley face killer, you know, where the smiley face killer was killing people, killing young kids, college kids from all over different states, you know. But these people aren't leaving any clues, and they're not doing it in a close region. But you know, when you think about it, Ramirez didn't do it in a close region. Ramirez went 500 miles to San Francisco,
Right,
which is a long time. So
right.
that doesn't rule out a serial killer. This could be a serial killer still. And then a woman's body found near the University of Boston. Uh, this is interesting. The cause of death has not been determined until they have an autopsy, but it might have been a shooting. They're saying it might have been from a shooting. And that happened, like, I don't know, like over the weekend. So that might be unrelated. That just might be someone who got shot at the Boston University,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
do we have any names or anything?
That I didn't get a name for. They didn't release a name on that one. They do have a body, you know.
Right. And
So
where was this? Where did this take place?
University of Boston.
It's a shooting.
Yeah, that's what it said.
All right, but definitely like not related to. It's just reporting on.
Well, he hasn't. He or she or cult or gang members or
Wait, this was 2 days ago.
yeah, who's ever doing this hasn't used a gun yet.
So this was a Northeastern University. Body was found,
Hmm.
and cause of death has not been determined.
Yep.
So another one that we don't know.
Yeah.
Another weird one. Again, I don't know if it's because we're researching this, but and just to make sure, was this? Yeah, it's crazy. Another one.
It's so confusing. You don't know what to think. It's like that would make 12. I'm counting. I'm tallying them all together. Because it's New England, and it's not like this happens this close in proximity. You know what I mean? Like usually, oh, people die here, people get shot here, people, but not like from February to May this consistently.
Right.
Unless it's the world has changed and this is some sick world we live in that people are dropping bodies off once a month now, and there is no serial killer. I don't know, but my theory is serial killers or something is going on. It's people doing it to these poor victims. Because it's last week we had two other people. Supposedly they were murdered by these people. Okay, now there's two more people. I don't know. I don't know, and I question the guy who had cancer killing his girlfriend. I question that. You know what I mean? But I don't know. That's all I got for this week on the update. Any thoughts or opinions? Are you leaning towards serial killer or
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Well, the ones that you mentioned are a little bit like it's interesting. They just happened and they're kind of really live. So as we keep getting more updates, but I think the weird part, I mean, it makes sense why you would dump a body at the cemetery, but just the fact that this is now a common occurrence.
yeah, it's happening every week. So
So,
somebody,
wait, and
somebody,
geez, what was the one in Boston? Who was it?
um, a woman's body found near the University of Boston.
Wait, was it the
On,
University of Boston?
yeah, on Tuesday. Cause of death not determined until autopsy. Might have been shooting
Wait, and where did you find this?
on the New England serial killer Facebook page. That's where I get all my information.
And just to make sure we're on the same page and for our audience out there, again, so what we're just, again, we're not saying that these are related to the totality of the serial killer, if there is a serial killer in New England, but just the fact that it is strange, right? How something keeps happening, like, I'm not saying like murders happen every week, but
But this is too weird. This is to me the weirdest case in serial killer history. I.
Well, the fact that yeah, that you're saying something, and once again, it was a body of a woman found near Northeastern University in Boston. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
Woman, and then her death has not been determined, but you think it was a shooting, right?
I read. Yeah.
So I guess as we cut more details, we'll probably, more leads to this will
yeah.
inform the public. But either way, it is be careful out there.
Oh, and hopefully next week we don't have more bodies we're talking about because it seems like the death tolls
I
going up.
know. We gotta be careful.
But serial killers usually leave something behind. Well, maybe there's a new school of serial killers. You are living in 2025. It's not 1976, and there's Disco David Berkowitz, and Ramirez out there leaving pentagrams and leaving letters to Jimmy Breslin and stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll have
Who
to see.
knows? Who knows, right? But Cheech, thank you for those updates.
Yes. And everybody just be careful out there and stay away from Evergreen Cemetery in New Haven.
I mean cemeteries in general, which is weird. But and and just once again, I think, it's a little too early to say if some of these murders are related, unrelated. We're not sure, but I definitely think that there's something odd with these
Yeah.
bodies being found.
Oh yeah.
I have never seen unless I don't know if it's a regular occurrence, but
This is not in my lifetime, and I'm older than you, and I'm from the old generation and the new generation of serial killers. Like the only thing I've seen is a smiley face killer
right,
do something like this, go to state to state to state, but they wanted to be known. They left a smiley face. In the 70s, David Berkowitz left his letters. Hello from the gutters of New York. Ramirez, he left, God forbid, these satanic, evil things laying around.
right,
Dahmer just took the bodies and in his apartment. I don't think he
right.
left any. He didn't want to get caught. Dahmer had no reason. He did not want to get caught. He got caught by mistake. But so I don't know. This could be a new breed of, it does sound culty though to me. It sounds culty. I
Hmm.
still not ruling that out, whether it's the dark cults or just some kind of group of people that started a cult and they're just out of their minds on drugs, killing people, and
Hmm.
or drug. I mean, could it be that much of a drug problem going on in this world where they're killing people,
Well, in Connecticut, it's kind of infamous.
and dumping bodies? I mean, that could be.
It could be a thing,
I
yeah,
mean, it could
which is
be
sad too. So,
drug cartel and
right,
not serial killer. I mean, we may never know. I have a feeling either they're gonna find out the source, whether it's everything we mentioned, or it's just gonna stop.
right,
And hopefully it just stops, and my heart goes out to the poor victims.
yeah, 100%,
So
100%. But once again, Cheech, thank you for that update, and we
you're
will be
welcome.
updating you on the New England serial killer, and hopefully, justice is brought to the families of these victims, and be careful out there. Definitely, definitely, like she said, this is not a regular occurrence, and just the fact that,
Yeah,
you know.
thank God the sun comes up early in Greenwich when I park my car nearest freaking cemetery.
Oh,
You know,
dude, yeah, I know. I was gonna say the temple is near a cemetery.
I park, secret, my secret space for the
Dude,
past.
watch your back, man. Because
I
from the back with the long hair, you gotta be careful.
never know, So, but the sun's up. The sun, but who knows? The sun might have been up when these people got killed. I'm thinking of Jason in the the horror movies. It's
But
always
but but that but that's a myth because serial killers get like they. I feel like the smart ones will do their murders in the daytime when you least expect it.
well, the classic ones always did it at night. Ramirez, the Night
The Night
Stalker,
Stalker. Oh, it makes sense.
Son of Sam, would shoot people, at night in parks and stuff like that.
Right, right.
So But anyway, so thanks, Manor, and we'll keep everyone updated. And if you live in the New England area, it's not even hiking trails anymore. It's colleges. So just be careful out there. Women especially, be careful.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. And on that note, we will catch you on the next one.
Yes. Have a good night.
Okay. All right, we are back. Everybody, welcome back to the Cheech and Manny music show, but not music today. We have made a slight diverge divergent path here into true crime, the seedy, sinister world of, I would say America's. There's definitely Europe, but America's, psychopathic
Oh
monster
yeah.
killers. We are going to continue our conversation and exploration of the son of Sam, the famous Sam Berkowitz, and his terrorizing of New York. Last episode, we went, Professor Cheech here,
Thank
professor
you.
of true crime, take his
No, I
class
wish.
Friday nights, bring your cats. But he did a great job explaining, going in the history of the Son of Sam killer. Now, in this episode, this half of the show, we're going to talk about an interesting sort of split sort of view. I guess I would call it viewpoints, right? Between
Mhm.
two famous journalists, researchers. She's just gonna fill us in a little bit on these sort of like two viewpoints that are, I guess at first glance could be controversial, and in a way is. So we'll be
Yeah.
exploring those 2 points. And Cheech, my friend, the people's bassist, how are you, man? Oh, by the
Good,
way,
man. How you doing? How's everything?
Bobby posted a great video of you guys doing Fat Chicks, dude. Your drummer, man, such
Oh,
such
Robbie
such
Offerman.
precision.
Everybody, check out the man, Robbie Offerman. 71-year-old drummer, and he plays like Lars Ulrich from Metallica. I don't know how he does it. I look
No,
at him,
and the way he does it is so precise.
and
It's
he plays in
amazing.
3 other bands. The guy's got so much energy. He's always out. Oh, and I'm glad you like Fat Chicks. It's like one of my favorite songs to play. Um, Speaking of Huddersfield, just a quick plug. We're playing.
Cheech,
Uh,
Cheech, I thought you were gonna say speaking of fat chicks.
no, I'm good. I'm good with the Fat
Definitely
Chicks.
not talking based on experience.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good there. We will not go there. We're just gonna talk about serial killers. Wait, serial killer, a fat chick? I know. Never mind. Anyway,
Never mind. We'll talk about lamias on the next episode.
yeah, exactly. I have to talk to Steve Harris about the Lamias. Um,
Yo, Cheech, fuck you very much.
yeah, exactly. Fuck you very much,
Fuck you
then.
very much, mate.
Uh, so Pottersfield BX will be playing next Tuesday at Lucy's in Pleasantville. We
Amazing.
have a 45-minute set starting at 8:30. Thank you, Tommy Dowd, who runs that down there, for getting us the gig. And we have big news, man, for the Cheech and Manny show. I mean, this is huge. This is like a dream come true for me. Uh we have, in my opinion, the greatest podcaster out there in the universe. Just like Rush is the greatest in the galaxy. I'm going to say in the galaxy. We have Mr. Manny Grossman, the one, the only, the man who inspired me to want to do podcasting. He is going to be on our show next week. We're going to record with him. It's going to be a half Rush show and half Son of Sam show. So
Hmm.
I'm so psyched to have Manny on the show, and we're gonna talk about Manny on this show. Um,
Yeah, like who Manny Grossman is, because that's like really
yeah,
important.
he is, and just a plug for Manny Grossman for son of if I could speak, son of Sam fans out there. Check out his podcast, The
Right.
Grossman Files. You could learn so much about the son of Sam. Manny Grossman is the man. He changed the son of Sam case forever. I'm going to talk about the infamous Maury Terry, but Manny Grossman is the man. Believe everything he says, because everything Manny Grossman says is the truth. Maury Terry wrote a nice book, but it's about 99.9% true. But I have to bring it up because this is a true crime series, and he was very popular for many years
Yeah.
about this. Sam, um, just quick New England serial update. I don't know. Uh, I'm starting to doubt it's a serial killer. Not, I'd be like, oh, I'm disappointed. No, but I really don't think we have a serial killer in New England. Because the Facebook is people are just getting writing nonsense and there's no, and anyone who walks in the woods is a suspect. It's just kind of like I just think it's an odd thing that there's bodies popping up and there's no real suspect, and it's too many states. So I might debunk the serial killer case on that. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, after pondering, based on our, conversations about the New England serial killer, yeah, I have to agree with you. I don't think, I think at the end of the day, it's just sick people out there. I'm actually glad it's not a serial killer because I don't think we want like a
Yeah,
Son of
yeah,
Sam terrorizing Connecticut or like this area, right?
yeah.
And yeah, I have to agree with you. I don't think there's really much merit. And I think we did a good job on one of our previous updates when we looked at some of these murders. I mean, they're all kind of like drug related, money related. Very, not there's not really a connection there. And I think, yeah, the public out there can like, I think don't have to worry that there's really no serial killer.
Yeah, I think it's drug cartel. I don't think there's a satanic cult or anything. I mean, in the beginning it's creepy, but I wouldn't worry about that too much anymore. The serial killer idea, I would put it to rest in my mind. But it was interesting a few months back. You know, but any shout outs for you, Manny?
So not at the moment. Just shout out to our fans out there. Um, Honestly, yeah, thank you for watching, subscribing. Shout out to Mr. Grossman. Manny Grossman made a lovely comment on our one of our Rush episodes, which I was really, really impressed because our
Yeah.
Rush episodes I think are some of the best, but
Oh
unfortunately,
yeah.
I don't think they will get the most views, because Rush is Rush, but I think we are trying to make them relevant. I'm happy Manny
Yeah.
Grossman clicked on the Grace Under Pressure album episode and really
Yeah.
joined in on the conversation, which is our goal.
Yeah.
I think we want to build a Rush community one day, so we'll see
Oh
what
yeah.
happens.
And I was so honored to have Manny, like the podcast and comment on it, and me and Manny been going back and forth for emails for some ideas for the show because we're going to talk. The show is going to be half Rush, which is our expertise, and then half Son of Sam, which is his expertise. I'm in the middle. I'm still a student on the Son of Sam. I know a lot than the average Joe on the Son of Sam, but I'm going to learn a lot from Manny on this. So,
Amazing.
uh, we'll jump ahead.
Jump right in.
Yeah, we'll jump into the Son of Sam. Now we ended, where he gets caught and he goes to jail and all that. And then a few years later, there's a book written by a man named Maury Terry. Now you have to bring up Maury Terry in the Son of Sam case because, for many years, I really thought, Maury Terry, wrote the Bible until I discovered Manny Grossman and I
Right.
discovered the truth. I saw the light. He brought so much sense, and I'm gonna explain, why Manny did this, and of course Manny will explain it too on the show. But I'm not gonna get too crazy on it. But so the Ultimate Evil is a book that came out in 1977, 1987. It was a huge success. Um, and basically, Maury is a great journalist who followed the case from the beginning and he collected a lot of information from people, but a lot of
Right.
that information was just
Wait, Cheech, can
people.
I share something?
Yeah.
So the Ultimate Evil, the full book is The Ultimate Evil an investigation into a dangerous satanic cult. And I think that's
Yeah.
really interesting because that's going to be sort of like
That's the
the
full title, right? It's the full title.
yes, that
Yeah.
that's the book's title. Yeah. And I'm looking on it's really cool. So for those
It's a
true
great cover. It's got a werewolf on it. It's got Charlie Manson. It's got Berkowitz on it. It's a
right.
creepy, creepy cover. That's why when I got it, I was just like, oh my God, I got to read this book.
Well, at this point, yeah, it's definitely a classic, and I'm not sure if there are reprints.
There is.
Okay.
Because there's a guy I'm going to talk about named Billy the Artist. I'll talk to him at the end. He was actually on Manny's show.
Oh no, no,
He
no, you're right. There is the Ultimate Evil, and then
90
also
93, I think it came out. They re
and this inspired the Netflix docu-series The Sons of Sam: A
Yeah,
Descent into Madness. And
yeah.
apparently there's a companion podcast, The Ultimate Evil. So yeah, this is definitely a classic true crime text, and I would say um Cheech, you would say like it's a recommended read, right? Because it is part of the
Um,
story.
well, I think now I would just stick with Manny Grossman and
Okay.
just follow Manny's podcast because Maury Terry's Ultimate Evil is a book of fiction pretty much now because Manny Grossman proved everything in that book is wrong, 99%, just by the title and stuff. But it is a good read. And if you read it from that perspective, that Manny Grossman has changed the Son of Sam case forever and proved the Son of Sam just killed by himself, no cult, nobody else. Um, there are still some interesting, mysterious deaths and stuff, that may linger, but and that's okay. So, but it's a great book to read. He brings in all this crazy stuff, which I'm going to talk about. He links stuff up to Charlie Manson. It's a good story. At the time when it came out, it was really scary because you're like, wow, this is all true. This is all real. And I believed it. Everybody believed it until Manny came around and proved it to be completely false.
Right.
But I do, Maury Terry did put his blood, sweat, and tears into this case, and he's a good journalist. He did work in Portchester. He's an interesting guy. Um, so basically, the book came out in 1987. He gave facts and insight about what happened. He followed the David Berkowitz case from the beginning. Um, and he was like obsessed with the case. It like took over. It like pretty much ruined the guy's friggin' life. It ruined, if you watch the documentary, it ruined his marriage. He became more of an
Well,
alcoholic. His
well,
health
you
went
know what's
down.
funny? I mentioned to you off screen that there is a movie directed by David Fincher called Zodiac, right?
Yeah,
And I know it's different. I know it happened 10 years ago,
yeah,
but something similar is shown in the movie. Now, you also mentioned that there are also people similar to Maury Terry that, really became obsessed
oh yeah,
with
yeah,
trying to uncover and unearth, the Zodiac killings, right?
yeah.
So, but it's funny you mentioned that's what the movie's about, how this one person's marriage, this one investigator, interviewed certain reporters, went to the policemen, went to the sites, very like a Manny Grossman type, right? Or
Yeah.
or Maury Terry. And it kind of, but with Maury, in the Zodiac movie, his marriage gets ruined. He falls into obsession
You
where,
know, I wonder if they used Maury as a character and they kind of like, what do you call that? And we always argue
well,
about like how I hate when they
yeah, this would be sort of like not historical fiction, but sort of, like what A Complete Unknown did, where we know, it's kind of laughable. We watched the movie and
yeah,
they got certain things wrong, but we know that it got most of the things, most of the true things out there. But yeah, I would say so. But it's just
maybe they
funny how
used.
you reminded me of that
Yeah, I mean,
story.
it could be. There could be a Maury Terry in California in the late '60s who was trying to figure out the Zodiac killer, and he fooled them all. I mean, that guy, sinister, sinister genius. Like how he got away with what he did, and to this day, they can't figure it out. Who he was. It's a great movie. I did some work on the Zodiac, like I studied it and I watched a bunch of documentaries. But after a while, it's not as interesting to me as The Son of Sam or Ramirez or
Right.
Dahmer.
Right.
But it's just fascinating. They never got the guy. You know,
Yeah,
like
there was
that.
possible suspects, but they
Yeah.
never, yeah, as far as I know,
The History Channel did a good thing a couple years ago on the Zodiac killer using a computer like AI, but even with that, this guy's he's dead now, or he's an old man, and
yeah.
you know, and even if there was a copycat, like going back to New England, you can't be a serial killer. Like the Son of Sam cannot happen now, especially in Manhattan. Too many cameras, too many phones. You would get caught by your second, your murder. To quote Manny Grossman, if you were a serial killer, by the
Mm.
second murder, you would be done. You'd be cooked. You know. So yeah, and that's a good valid point about that. That the journalist in that movie. I don't know if he existed or if that was based on Maury Terry. Um, so this is where it gets interesting with Maury Terry. Now, Maury Terry, I think what I'm learning from Manny, he'd get information and he would spin it and he would just take it, to the next level and lie and say, "Oh yeah, this is the truth," and then people would believe it and then go, "Oh my God, there is a satanic cult. The
Right.
Process Church is involved." But it would just be some guy named Vinny in prison who's a jailbird giving him this information. How could you take that guy serious?
Right.
Or whatever, there was a guy named Vinny who gave him some information on something. But like, how could you take a prisoner serious who is got nothing but time on their hands to just stir shit up? And he believed it and he put it in the book. He even convinced I can't think of the guy's name, the Queen's DA, to print in the paper that there was a satanic cult.
Mm.
And that was right around the time the Son of Sam did the murders, maybe a year or so later. So he convinced the DA of this. And it's interesting, like the documentary is good. It's very entertaining.
Mm.
And there's a point in the documentary where I believe the Son of Sam writes him a letter and Maury gets all excited and stuff. And he says, "You're on to something, but they will never believe you, you know. They'll never believe your story, and that kind of stuff." So I think the Son of Sam was playing with Maury Terry, you know, feeding him lies, giving him little tidbits of information that he's like, "Oh my God, yeah, maybe,
Right.
maybe this is true." And of course, he would go to the press and the press would print it because he was a journalist and scare the world that there's a satanic cult out there, that innocent people like John Carr and Michael Carr were involved in it. You know what I
Mm.
mean? That kind of thing. Just and this is my opinion from being a student of Manny Grossman. Um, you know, so this is what I remember in the '90s. This is very interesting. So Manny and Maury. I got him. I got three. I got two Manny's and a Maury on my mind
I was
right
gonna
now.
say.
So Maury Terry interviewed David Berkowitz in prison. He was allowed. I think he was the first person to go into the prison and interview him. This was a big deal. There was a show before your time, or right when you were born, probably called The Current Affair. I think it was a Current Affair or there was a bunch of these like news shows, and it was on that. So he interviews David Berkowitz. Now, this first interview is David Berkowitz just telling a load of bullshit to Manny, and Manny kind of making him like it's kind of staged. I don't even know. Maybe it's rehearsed, but it's definitely not true.
Mm.
So David Berkowitz is saying this is in the '90s. David tells him everything. He says, this is film for TV. He told him about the cult in Untermeyer Park and the activities that took place. There was blood oaths, and they would serve Satan. Um,
Hmm.
and how he gave him and how he had to give information to the cult about his family, or they would, because David Berkowitz did have family. He had a couple sisters
Mm.
from his real marriage, that he was, I guess, close with. I don't know if that man could get close with anybody. I mean, someone that cold and evil. Um, and if you left the cult, they would kill your family. And the shootings were for a cult sacrifice. And then he said, like, there was a disco called the Eliaphus disco, and they did it for Eliaphus Levy, who was a magician and an
Mm.
occultist who Crowley was into, and all this, like, crazy dark satanic shit. That was a spin, probably a lie by Berkowitz, and Maury Terry put it in the book just to be creepy. Um, but now this is where it gets crazy. Berkowitz says he only killed 2 people, and he's in jail for killing 9.
Mm.
Did he confess on TV to Maury Terry, or Maury Terry made him say this, or got the, what do you call it when you get something out of somebody and it's not really true? I'm sure there's a word for it. I just can't think.
Mm.
You know.
Like, is it like alleged confession?
Yeah, like an alleged confession or just a staged interview. He basically said that he killed 2 people, and this is the sad part. He said John and Michael Carr
Hmm.
killed some of the people, and there were more members,
Hmm.
and he did not act alone. And there are still living victims that are out there. So now, hearing this and being a victim, you're watching this, you're probably like, oh my God, David Berkowitz is saying he didn't shoot me. You know, how do you feel about that? Like, how would you feel if you watched the guy you thought shoot you say he didn't shoot you, but somebody else did?
I mean, I feel like no. Like,
But are you gullible? Are you thinking like, is this guy lying? He is crazy. You know what I mean?
mm.
Because there's a guy named Carl Denaro who's very interesting. He was in the Carl Denaro. Where's my sheet? Oh man, I think he was. Oh, Carl Denaro. It was in Queens, and Rosemary Keaton. It was
Mhm.
the second murder that took place. This
Mm.
poor guy got shot in the head, and he has a metal plate in his head. He lived, but for the rest of his life, it had to be post traumatic stress and stuff. So he believes the son of Sam, and he contacts Maury Terry, and they form this group, the Pine Street, something, and they get together with a former cop. This is all in the documentary, who is an expert on cults, and I really like this cop. He's really interesting,
Hmm.
and they reopened the case. I don't know if they officially did, but they did it on their own to see who's more involved.
Mm.
Um, So what happens is, Caldenaro gets involved, and he can't believe that he supposedly was shot not by the son of Sam, which is BS. Because in my opinion, Manny's opinion, he was shot by the son of Sam.
Mm.
My opinion. If Caldenaro was listening to this, no disrespect, it's just my opinion, and I feel bad for the guy. That sucks.
Mm.
He thought David shot him, uh, but a cult member did, or whoever. And this is the work of Maury Terry's um, spin, or making David Berkowitz say this, or Berkowitz is just lying to Terry so Terry could have more fuel. You know, and then the other Yonkers cop got involved, and then all of a sudden, the case was like almost open, and the New York police got pissed off. They did
Mm.
not want this to happen. They were like, we closed it. And it is interesting how they did close. They closed the case pretty quick
Yeah.
once they got the killer. And I think they knew they had the killer. They knew he acted alone. And Mayor, I'm going to say his name wrong. We talk about him a lot. BM was an election year, so he didn't want any of this shit. He had a horrible year and a half as mayor.
Mm.
Imagine being mayor and then this shit's going on. The worst crime in New York City, and the worst summer, elections in November. So he basically closes the case really, really quick, and it's over pretty much.
Yeah.
Then the son of Sam starts talking shit in prison and talking to reporters, saying, "No, there's other people out there." This is all in Maury's book. No, this isn't his book, but this is factual, and telling people he didn't act alone. Okay. So then all of a sudden, you know, uh, in the interview, um, David said the Process Church was a part of this, and their goal was to make chaos on the world, and they brainwashed people. The Process Church did bad things to like, I'm not even going to say, just use your imagination, things with kids, drug trafficking. They wanted evil in the world. And David said that he said all this to Maury Terry.
Mm.
And some of this was in the Ultimate Evil. So he might have read it anyway. This is like after the Ultimate Evil came out.
Mm-hmm.
And Maury Terry, this is where I get confused. Maury Terry wrote this shit already. So he's
Mm.
just quoting the Ultimate Evil too.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that's interesting is there's a woman named Arliss Perry. He said he knew about her murder. She was murdered brutally in California in a satanic ritual, and he wrote to the North Dakota. I'm sorry, the Stanford police in California, and said he knew
Mm.
about it. They investigated it, and he was just, I don't know, playing with them. But he knew about that, which was interesting.
Mm.
And the guy was supposedly a cult member that did it. Um, and it was like a separate case, maybe. They end up finding the guy who killed Arliss Perry. It was the original suspect, the night watchman. And when they found him in his house, and now this is all in the documentary,
Mm.
he shot himself because
Mm.
he knew he was cooked because they had the fingerprints. And they found the book, The Ultimate Evil, in the guy's house. So it's interesting that the son of Sam knew about this case, because I don't know how he would have known about it. Maybe he did know about it from the newspaper or whatever. Um, so this, when this shit came out, it scared a lot of cult members. So supposedly a lot of cult members came out to Maury Terry and this other guy, which I knew his name is Yonkers policeman, and Carl
Mm.
DeNaro, and they lawyered up quick, and then one cult member killed themselves. Now, this
Mm.
is what Maury Terry's saying. These people might not have been in a cult. They just maybe wanted attention. That's what Maury did. He took stories and he ran with it. If you told me a story about the temple, and I ran tomorrow, and I said, "Guess what Manny said?" And
Mm.
I like exaggerated it. He exaggerated a lot of stuff that's not cool. So that's basically Maury Terry's story. The Ultimate Evil talked about, as you said in the cover, the satanic cult that David Berkowitz was about,
Mm.
funded by the Process Church, which was a church in England that I don't think, I mean, there's so many theories, with Manson. I don't think the Process Church is evil like they are. I think they just got a name for being evil, maybe made up by Maury Terry. All I know is that they were just another cult popping up in England in the 60s and 70s.
Mm.
I mean, the Beatles were on their magazine, on the cover of the Process Church magazine. So how evil could they be?
Mm-hmm.
Why would the Beatles be on a group? I mean, they did a lot of weird stuff. Maybe they were just like Anton LaVey's cult. They were just another weird cult looking for philosophy and stuff like that,
Hmm.
but somehow they got lumped into being this evil organization.
Mm.
He talks about the process church, the satanic rituals that went on in Untermeyer, Arliss Perry, John Carr, Michael Carr. He even is trying to say that Stacy Moskowitz was the last murder, which is like iconic murder in the Son of Sam case. That she was filmed for a snuff film by this guy. Oh, I can't think of his last name. I forget his name, but he filmed it. The first name was Don Ishman or something like that,
Mm.
and but he mysteriously died. They ransacked his house, but that's another interesting fact. In the story. So Maury
Mm.
Terry put all this crazy stuff in his book. So Maury Terry is just basically trying to tell you that the Son of Sam's involved in a cult. It's a conspiracy. Other
Mm.
people are involved, and it's not true. It's not true at all. It's all just it's all you know BS. I think, in my opinion. So any thoughts on that?
No, just really, I'm surprised how complicated this whole situation is. The Son of Sam.
It gets according to Maury Terry's book, it gets insane. I mean, it goes like, oh my God, the Carr brothers were, Maury Terry saying this. I'm not saying this. That John and Michael Carr were involved.
Right, right. Oh, and it's crazy because we have cults involved too.
Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't understand, um, well, first process church, we would have to do an episode on the process church
Oh
and
yeah.
sort of describe who exactly they were and their tie with the Manson murders, right? But aside from that, we're also dealing with Satanism, which could be
Mhm.
its own episode as well.
Oh yeah.
And aside from that, we also have the intricate complexities of this case. And for anybody that has seen the movie Rosemary's Baby, Rosemary tries to find help, but finds out everybody is involved. So it could well be the case that there were cult members involved, maybe in the
Well,
police force,
that that's
maybe.
that's a theory Maury had, that Yonkers police was involved. The process church was involved with Manson. He made he took young people and he trying to brainwash them.
Yeah.
Manson talks about the process church. I just saw an interview with Manson talking about the process church.
Hmm.
I sent you a crazy interview with Charles Manson. I don't know if
Hmm.
you saw it. I mean, he's so twisted. He's actually funny. I hate to say that. The guy's out of his fucking mind,
He's
Charles Manson.
out of his mind.
Always found him interesting. Um, so supposedly he was at Process Church meetings, Manson. You know, then they bring in the Scientology BS. Just because Michael Carr was into Scientology, Maury Terry's like, oh, he's tied into Scientology. Scientology's a cult. L. Ron Hubbard. It goes back to like Crowley and shit like that. All
Hmm.
this weird stuff. So what? The guy was into Scientology. You know, big deal. His brother John Carr, the poor guy, was a drug addict. He had drug problems.
Hmm.
His death isn't mysterious. I mean, it is and it isn't. Like he killed himself maybe because drug dealers were after him, in my opinion, or maybe he was the son of Sam,
Hmm.
literally, and he was involved in it. But they never interviewed him. The
Right.
police, the cops had no interest in interviewing John Carr, even after Dave Berkowitz said interview him. From my knowledge of that. So Maury Terry just put this whole spin on this. He took stuff, he made it up. He just took stories from jailbirds or just people who really didn't know what they were talking about or were drugged out of their minds, and he just went with it. And it's a good book to read to learn about all this crazy stuff. The Manson stuff, I don't know. I don't know. That I can't speak on, because if Charles Manson's saying he's connected to the Protestant Church, then that's a whole nother, episode and a whole nother case. But as far as this case goes, David Berkowitz, in my opinion, acted alone, and it goes back to his upbringing, his childhood, wanting to kill women because he was abandoned by, his mother,
Yeah. And
stepmother.
let's be frank. I mean, no woman wanted him.
Oh no, no, he
My
couldn't.
boy was a mama's boy.
And according to Maury Terry, he wasn't. He had a girlfriend in the cult. He had he got the spray for the cat. I got that.
They're being a little nefarious. I think they're
Yeah,
hearing Son of Sam, so this one's getting a little agitated.
yeah. Being a black cat.
I got the cousins of Sam here.
Yeah, you got the cat Sam. Wait, I'm
They,
hearing him talk to me. He's
I think I
talking to
heard them whispers. I
me.
can understand what Berkowitz was talking about.
Yeah.
Every time I
And,
go in the temple, it's dangerous.
and that's a whole other thing. Like, yeah, he made up the whole story.
Wait,
Son is
is that factual? Did he make that up? Like the dog spoke to him?
that's something we gotta ask Manny. Like, I know he said that the dog made him kill, and the dog was a demon, Beelzebub, a 3,000-year-old demon.
Right.
Then he told people no, that he didn't, that he didn't, he made that up. Excuse me. He was trying to plead insanity, I think. He did shoot the dog. That's a fact. He shot at the dog.
So why did he shoot at the dog?
Well, basically, a Manny's theory, or Manny's, theory, which is true, I
Wait,
believe.
and Chief, just make sure for our audience, we explained who Manny Grossman was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Manny Grossman is the authority, the main man on the Son of Sam. He
Right.
reopened the case. He proved the Son of Sam.
And what's his YouTube channel called? Just
The
for our audience out there.
Grossman Files. I
The
mean,
Grossman Files. So for anybody out there, you can definitely search up on YouTube, and I'll link his channel on here.
yeah, yeah.
But this is the Grossman Files. So we
Got a
have
lot of
been
videos. Got like 250 videos, I think. So,
right.
and they're all amazing. And I'm going to talk about what Manny did, which was groundbreaking in the case in a little bit. But the dog, according to Manny's theory, the dog drove him nuts. There was something wrong with David Berkowitz's hearing, maybe, or he had auditory issues, and it made him write the letters. It fed his anger to kill. And there was a pattern with the dog, the letters, and him killing that
Mm.
Manny came up with. I'm pretty sure on. We have to ask Manny that. So the dog had a lot to do with driving him crazy. I don't know if there was any witnesses who seen him shoot the dog, but they pretty much knew it was him, because David Berkowitz had a bad reputation in Yonkers at that time.
Mm.
Um, so now, any questions on Maury Terry before we get into Manny?
No, that was pretty good. Very riveting on Maury Terry and his book, which was what was it called, Cheech?
The Ultimate Evil, and
The
then you had
Ultimate Evil, which I
real.
think it might be at this point. I could argue might be dated. And I know
Yeah,
Moritori, it's a classic. I think it's a true crime classic, the way you describe it. But at this point, it might be dated. But there is a Netflix series that's based on it, a docu-series, which is
yeah.
interesting. So for any true crime lovers, it definitely is worth a read. This dude spent years of his life, I think his whole life,
It's
on this
sad.
case.
He spent all these years, and the documentary is great, and I used to believe all that stuff, and it's all BS. The Son of Sam acted alone, and I can't stop saying it, because I was like shocked when I came to the conclusion, like, wow, all this stuff Maury wrote it's BS. It's
Right.
all exaggerated lies from people. Um, so now Manny Grossman, he, this is amazing. He figured out the Son of Sam's first victim, Wendy Servino. She got shot 3 months before Donna Loria, and I believe that's her name because I'm so bad with names. Where's my I'm sorry, I want to make sure I get the names down. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Donna Loria files that he went into. He found the sketch and he proved to the police that Wendy had been saying for years, the son of Sam shot me. And they were like, they didn't believe her until finally 50 years later, Manny proved it to be. And he also proved the son of Sam's killing pattern, and there might be other big bodies out there. And Wendy Servino uh, thanked Manny for doing it. She said in the interview, the podcaster, Manny, who just went through thousands of files on Maury's files, the Yonkers police files, the Donna Loria files. He figured all this stuff out. The guy's a freaking genius. He took it to the new level more than Maury did, and Maury did put a lot of hard work in it. Manny took it to the next level. So Manny Grossman started a podcast about 5 years ago. At first, Manny, believed Maury Terry being a student of the book, but then Manny interviewed a lot of people from that era, from the 70s, who hung out in Untermeyer Park, and maybe saw some cult activity. He interviewed them. He brought new life and new information into the case. He brought in different angles. And the cool thing that Manny did that no one's ever done is he would do walk and talks. He would take his camera and go on the location where, there would be the Stacy Moskowitz murder, or the Donna Loria murder would be. He would take you right there to the actual scene of where the crime scene is, and then he'd take you to Untermeyer, which is my favorite because I love Untermeyer Park, and and he would take you to all the spots where they found a cross on a tree, where supposedly there were bodies buried underneath that cross. That kind of thing. And the Yonkers police, I believe, got involved with that. So Manny took it to the next level. So where am I? But then, once he interviewed former Yonkers police, people that were there at the time, witnesses, other true crime people. So he'd have like expert true crime people on his show, and they would talk about this. He came to the conclusion that Maury was wrong, and that Son of Sam acted alone, and there was, no satanic cult involved in the killings. So let me see. I kind of skipped around a little bit. So, he went against Maury Terry's cult theory, and the book really, doesn't mean anything anymore. The Protestant church wasn't involved. Although I believe Carl Denaro, I would wonder if he still believes the Maury Terry philosophy. He was on the documentary, so I'm sure he still does. But there are people that are still going to believe Maury and stuff, but those people got to really, they gotta re-examine the whole case, I think. So I think, in my opinion, and I think Manny would agree, there was cult activity in Untermeyer Park going way back to the 60s, and there was probably cult activity going on during this time in the 70s, and it was just maybe kids dabbling and stuff, and it had nothing to do with the Son of Sam. Kids just doing stupid shit. And I have a story about that, actually, and this is where it's the truth. This really will give you the truth about why Manny's right. he had a character on his show, and I recommend this episode, Billy the Artist. Now, Billy the Artist is in the second edition that came out in '93. Billy the Artist contacted Maury. He was a drug addict. He needed money. He lived in Untermeyer. He hung out there. He knew what was going on. There was maybe cult activity going on that he witnessed.
Hmm.
He told Maury a load of bullshit. Maury believed it. And supposedly he even took Maury to a funeral of the head of the cult and that kind of thing. He convinced Maury that there was a cult involved, and he paid Billy the Artist money. So Billy the Artist just bullshitted the guy, and Maury fell for it.
Hmm.
Maury, in a way, was so into this case to prove that it was a cult. He would
Yeah, that
believe.
he used something called confirmation bias, where
Explain that.
so, and again, like I'm not too much just I, it's funny. I was looking at the Grossman files and I noticed Billy the Artist.
Yeah, Billy, he's a character. My God, is he a character? He reminds me of Leslie West from Mountain or somebody like.
But so it seems that Maury Terry, you in psychology, we have something called confirmation bias.
Yeah,
And what it is, it's when individuals, so in this case, Maury Terry, tended to favor information that confirms his existing beliefs or biases. And because he was so obsessed with this, he definitely, you know, there was some
I
a lot
think
of
I think you just summed up the ultimate evil that with that word.
right, right. And again, that's why I say the book it seems in that, and I guess Manny Grossman, through his investigations, revealed that there was some confirmation bias on his part. So it could be possible that the book is dated.
It's totally dated, yeah. And not only did Manny Grossman, Manny Maury, Manny, sorry, Maury Terry pay Billy the Artist. He put him on like a current affair, one of these shows where his face was blocked, and he admitted to all this shit. He admitted, I guess, the Pacers and the Knicks. I didn't catch the score, but
Mm.
anyway, we'll hear about that tomorrow at the Temple. Um, God, so he basically lost my train of thought. Got him on the show, and Billy went on the show, and
Yeah,
you got
it's funny. I saw a video of him. He looks like a character.
to.
Like, I mean, I'm gonna lie. It's interesting because it's like a primary source. The dude actually spoke with Maury Terry. I just want to warn viewers. Like, you're saying how much of a character he is, but just so when you watch it, you're prepared.
Yeah, he is a character. I love his
I
character.
love it. No, I love it.
He reminds me so much of Leslie West. And he lied to Maury, was on TV, and his brother called him up when it aired, and he didn't think anybody would recognize him. And his brother's like, "You idiot! What are you doing? I recognize that's you. Why are you saying that? Now we're gonna have cult people after that kind of stuff.
Right, right.
Just did it for money." So say that word again about Amori Terry.
Oh, he used the famous psychological, I think it's like a cognitive, what it is, but it's in cognitive psychology. But anyways, the confirmation bias is
Yeah,
when
so the
you are
confirmation
so
bias.
obsessed with your, existing belief or,
Yeah,
or idea that any evidence that even if any evidence that you find, you're like, yes, I was right. See, but obviously he didn't weigh his information right with Billy the Artist, not realizing, no offense, drug addicts will do anything for money. I mean,
and that's what Billy
I,
said. That. You got to watch the video, and viewers, you got to watch Billy the Artist on Manny Grossman's show. At that time in the '70s, in the '90s, he was a drug addict. He needed money. He lied to Maury, was on the show, got his money. Maury put him in the book. Never saw him again. Then he told Maury. Then he told too many M's. I'm sorry. Then he told Manny Grossman on the Grossman files everything I just told you. He
oh,
told me,
Cheech, I just remember that confirmation bias thing?
yeah,
It's a cognitive distortion. That's what they're
Yeah, man.
called. So when you study, there are a lot of biases. But anyway, but the point is, it's like with him, and that's crazy because as with anything, especially as something as intricate as the Berkowitz files, the Son of Sam, one has to be careful, like before one starts, disregarding. First of all, and again, and I like what you said about a lot of in those days. I feel as though similar to how people joined, Crowley's religion or
Yeah.
whatever, or there was a lot of 60s and 70s.
Lima.
I know bands like the Rolling Stones got involved in some satanic cults, but they were just like
Oh, in that era,
it was
there was
common. No, it was common. Young
flower
people
power.
thought,
There was the hippies, but then there was the
and
middle.
what's crazy? Manson was part of that.
Oh, he was. He was. They were hippies.
Which, what's funny? And Quentin, I don't know if you like this movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
I don't. And
but I will say, but Quentin Tarantino does
I think
show
it's a
you.
great movie. I just didn't like the ending.
No, no, no.
You
Once
know,
again, it's gonna piss you off. I love it because, of course, Tarantino does what Tarantino does best, and just like Inglourious Basterds, it's a revisionist history movie,
yeah,
but in the movie, it shows you when a man, and it's creepy when Brad Pitt's character goes to the commune. Because again,
yeah,
hippie communes, there was all these ideas,
yeah.
um,
A
it was
spiritual
common.
rebirth. A spiritual rebirth.
Yeah. Now that being said, there were some very evil satanic cults, and we could look at, and maybe in the future, true crime episode, look into some of these really evil
Oh yeah,
cults,
and not too far away from Spawn Ranch was, the Satanic Church of Anton LaVey, who was not doing anything evil. He was just doing his crazy ass
Nah,
orgy.
he's like an Aleister Crowley. He's just like an
Yeah,
idiot.
he was just doing his crazy orgies and
Yeah. And let's
pouring.
be honest, that's why he did it for the orgies. I mean,
Yeah,
at the end of the day,
I
Crowley
mean,
too. I feel like a lot of these dudes are horny dudes.
well, Crowley's fascinating to me. I've always been see Crowley
But
was.
but but you have to admit, for some odd reason, for a man that the way he looked, he had sex appeal with some people. I mean, and obviously, I feel as though maybe Hendrix got inspired. I have a feeling that no one fact check me, but Hendrix definitely looked into that. Jimmy Page, of course.
Oh, Jimmy Page is the authority. That's how
No,
I got into Crowley.
no. And by the way, one of the reasons why I know Crowley had such an influence, you know why? And you're the expert on Crowley. So this Professor Cheech is also an expert in, cult personality types like Crowley, LaVey. One of our conversations at the temple was, around LaVey and his church and the his anti-Bible, his inverted Bible. But it's
Yeah.
crazy. Crowley makes an appearance
Just to make a point, I am not into that.
no, no,
I'm
no, no, no. You're just it's like you're fascinated with
I'm
these
on the
cult.
other guy's side.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and you have a story when you went to I don't know if it was one of the church process churches or LaVey churches,
Well, okay. Yeah,
but, you can mention it. But before I forget, like the reason why I mentioned Crowley is because he makes a sort of cameo on the Beatles' Sergeant Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band. Behind, he's the one of many figures. So
oh yeah.
just goes to show you that this was kind of like normal in a way back in the day. Like,
Yeah, in the 60s Crowley made a real he was popular again with the Beatles and the English liked them. And if you were into magic, he wrote,
the
not that I'm
occult,
into that shit. I'm not
yeah.
into, like, he wrote a lot of books that people use. I was really into his philosophy, Thelema, which is a pretty amazing philosophy about your conditioned will and your true will. And we talked about that, and I always found that fascinating. But that's about it. I
Bro.
never,
Yeah, just disclaimer, Cheech is not
no,
a part of Crowley's church or devotee or
God no,
disciple
God no. Just a
or
researcher,
apostle.
on the guy. Found him fascinating. Blame Jimmy Page and Geezer Butler and Ozzy for me getting into reading about those guys, because every kid did in the 80s.
Yeah,
If you
dude,
were into
that's
heavy
what I'm saying.
metal,
So, I mean, with
if
the
you were into
cult
heavy
thing,
metal, and you were just like we did with Rush, you know when we were listening to the Kubla Khan, you went out and you
All right, I
Coleridge,
had to
you
figure
went
out
out
who
and got the
Kubla Khan
book.
is.
You wanted to know who wrote that poem. Ayn Rand, when they wrote the song Anthem, I wanted to know who Ayn Rand was. So I wanted to know who Aleister Crowley was, because Mr. Crowley, Ozzy singing about it. Ozzy was my God, it still is my God. Who is Crowley? Ozzy didn't even write the lyrics. Bob Daisley did, but because who's a brilliant guy and an amazing underrated bass player, Bob Daisley. Check him out. So I was just like very, into that as a young kid.
Hmm.
And of course my mom would take, my Crowley books away from me, when I was
I
young.
mean,
Yeah,
yeah, let me.
seance had posters of Crowley up and stuff, and they ripped him down. And I'm like, no, the guy's not really evil. He's not really that evil. So,
Wait, Chief, just to make sure we are, I think, past the 40-minute mark.
okay. So,
Anything like,
I'll just bring up, um, Untermeyer Park, because you can't, we covered everything in the Son of Sam case. Last episode, the murders, the Son of Sam, why he did the murders, his mommy issues, his being adopted, I forgot what else his trial and all that crazy stuff. This was a good episode because we brought up, Maury, who has to be brought up, and Maury is a book of fiction, and I can't, read the book if you want, but it's not true. Manny Grossman is the only thing you need to know about the Son of Sam,
hmm.
because the Son of Sam acted alone. Manny Grossman is the new. If there was the old Maury that everybody read, Manny Grossman is the guru and the greatest thing about the Son of Sam. I can't stop saying that. He changed everything, and I believe 100% that the Son of Sam acted alone because of Manny Grossman. Now, you got to bring up Manny Grossman. You got to bring up The Ultimate Evil. You got to bring up the documentary. I recommend the documentary. It's a good documentary to watch. It's fascinating, but
What's
don't.
the documentary called?
Oh God, the Son of Sam, something, Descent into Darkness.
Okay.
It's on Netflix. It's a 4-part series, but don't let it sway you. Don't let it change your mind about the Son of Sam being a killer. Uh, it really makes you look at Maury Terry's life, how this case killed killed the guy. It literally gave him a heart attack. And I respect his dedication and stuff for being into that, but he just spun a lot of bullshit to people, myself included, and it's just like, wow, I wish I known that years ago. But Untermeyer Park, you got to bring up. Untermeyer Park was a property of Samuel Untermeyer, a lawyer. It is a beautiful place with gardens and statues. There's like a lot of, I mean, I don't know the statues' names, but like sphinxes, amphitheaters. There's a Medusa. There's a head of Medusa that's like on one of these like circular things that look out in the Hudson. So it's beautiful. There's a Temple of the Sky. There's all these beautiful statues and gardens. It's a very mystical place. It has something about it. It has been accused of occultist, doing stuff there since the 50s and 60s. People were doing druid rituals there. So it's rich in that kind of thing. People doing, occult stuff.
Hmm.
Untermeyer supposedly, I read this, it could be far-fetched, was connected to our boy Crowley in some way. I don't know how true it is, but there's activity since the 50s with the Freemason, the Druids. They would hold rituals. Then in the 70s, it became a shithole. It became a place for junkies. It became a place for homeless people. Perfect spot for young kids listening to Black Sabbath who just want to take it to the next step and go into that dark cave, where the rituals would take place, not the Son of Sam rituals where kids would do stuff, is where the unicorn and the lion head meet. It's like this castle. We
Mm.
should definitely, I should take you there one day. Been there many times. And, there's still 666 written on the walls and all this upside down crosses and stuff, in the area. So it just has a tradition of that. Now people have their weddings there. So,
I mean, it looks, I'll be honest with you, you wouldn't, just from the pictures, you wouldn't guess that it's satanic or creepy or anything,
but it's
but
not anymore. If you
no,
put
no, no,
in
I'm saying like you wouldn't never have guessed like the history behind this
But if
place.
you put in 1970s Untermeyer Park, you'll be scared of what you've seen in there. There was shit going on, but I think the people doing shit had nothing to do with
Wait, and
murder.
this is Untermeyer Park in Yonkers.
Yeah, in North Yonkers in the 70s. I think kids, were just doing shit in there, getting high and maybe reading Crowley books and LaVey books and doing rituals. And, I have a couple quick stories if we have a few more minutes.
Yeah.
There was a woman named Cheryl I used to work with at the temple. When she was young, she was walking on the aqueduct and she saw in that spot that I'm talking about where because from the aqueduct you could see this little castle. There's a beautiful
Hmm.
lion head and a unicorn. She saw flames, people in robes, and heard chanting. And she said her and her girlfriend were just like going on a night walk, and it was usually late at night, like 4 or 3 in the morning, and they ran, and somebody with a robe came out and was looking. But she said that was Yonkers in the 70s. It was fucking crazy. Stuff was going on.
Hmm.
I had an experience when I was about 14 or 15 when I'm letting the cat out of the bag. I cheated on my band seance. Okay, I jammed with a heavy metal band because I went through this phase. Seance wasn't heavy enough, and I hooked up with a band from Yonkers, and the drummer and I started to talk, and the guy
Hmm.
is like, this is in the middle of the Satanic Panic. I'm 14 years old, 1983, 1984, and he says, we're talking about the Son of Sam. He's like, oh, you ever been to Untermeyer? I said, no, but I heard about it. He goes, well, my brother's friend, well, he does some shit there. And I'm like, what do you mean shit? He's like, you know what I mean? And he was talking about, satanic shit. So me being a stupid ass kid, wanting to go smoke some weed with them or whatever, drink some beers, went to Untermeyer and he showed me where they did stuff. And I was so fucking creeped out.
Hmm.
I don't know if this kid was in a cult, and this is in the 80s now. I was a little kid in the 70s, and this is during the Satanic Panic. I don't know if this kid was in a cult and he was trying to recruit me. I don't know because that's how they used to work back then. This
Yeah,
is like
they're kind of sneaky.
my own personal story, but he was a cool guy. I couldn't imagine being in a
No,
cult.
you know what's crazy? I hate to admit it, but like sometimes when like let's say someone wants you to go to their church, they kind of like, hey man, we got you want to come for pizza or coffee or whatever, and
And
you're
it's
like, wait, are you
yeah,
signing me up for something here?
and it's
Or
crazy.
or when you're led to some person trying to sell some timeshare or something, they
Yeah,
and then
and,
then they give you the slam at the end, the all right, you're in a
I mean,
cult, no
I
escape, buddy.
at the time I was thinking music, and we were playing a lot of crazy ass music like Venom and Bathria and Slayer, Hella Waits, and I'm thinking like, we're doing all this evil shit. Maybe these guys are into this. I'm a kid. I don't like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like in ninth grade. I don't know anything about the world. So who knows what this guy was trying to lead me to. But at the time they did have I think the pump house might have been there, and that's where a lot of evil shit was. And he's seen that I was really creeped out by it, and I think I quit the band after that. I was just like, fuck this, I don't. And they were
Oh,
older.
good move, because you would have been in a cult that wouldn't leave your family alone.
They were like 19, 20 years old, and I was just playing with them. We were just talking about Untermeyer. So I mean, it could all be a coincidence too. That's just my story with that.
Yeah,
But anyway, this was a great episode.
it really was.
Any last thoughts?
It's just been fun diving into true crime, and it definitely is a nice divergent from our music stuff. Where
Yeah. And to our fans out there, don't get worried.
oh no, no,
We're
this
not going to be true crime guys. We're it's a hobby of ours.
mhm.
We're going to be doing AM Gold. We have the band's Brown album coming up. We're
Can't
gonna have
wait.
Joe Silkman back, so we'll get away from all this
I think
crazy stuff. But it's so much,
um
and
no, I
just
just want to comment on yeah. So for all our fans out there, yeah, don't worry. We're gonna come back to we're gonna start spinning the records again. But I'm super excited for the AM Gold episode. I'm excited to bring back Mr. Joe Silkman
yep,
on this Bob Dylan's Desire
like
and Led Zeppelin's In Through the Outdoor, which I'm
yep, we're gonna
eventually
be
it's
working
gonna come
on
up.
that. Uh,
And we have the band's Brown album,
yeah, that's gonna be the next
which
one.
is gonna be really exciting. And we're
Or
returning back to
I don't know. I'm kind of excited about AM Gold too. So we
oh,
got to
I'll be honest, I'm more excited about that one because we're gonna
yeah
make a case stop with the yacht rock. And
yeah
I hope you got into where that term came from.
yeah. A couple of idiots in the '70s
Yeah,
that
because we need to stop with the yacht rock. This is if anything, it could be argued that AM Gold was probably one of the greatest eras in music.
I think so.
It was
I,
one of the greatest where rock sort of evolved in this great sound. The albums sounded amazing. I mean, just to name one classic album such as Steely Dan's Aja,
oh yeah, yeah.
right?
It's funny though. Like I almost don't consider them, but they are soft rock. I consider Steely Dan jazz rock.
Well, you know what's
But
funny? I argue that Steely Dan is soft rock, and the reason why is because of they invented soft rock. I mean, I hate to admit it, with their album "Can't Buy a Thrill." They were already ahead of the game. And then Asia,
yeah.
then they brought in the blues and really
But
became
then you got "Reelin' in the Years," which is a kick-ass rock song, and that's like the debate I have. Like, what's a true soft rock band? I know we're jumping.
well, that's gonna be
We're
good when we talk about it because we can
you know
debate that. I mean,
because
I'm in agreement with you. I think
like
there's a difference.
a true soft rock band is Air Supply. Every song is just
Well, soft rock has a, and I will admit, I hate to admit this, but I love soft rock. I
I
love
love it too.
Christopher Cross. I'll be
Love it.
honest with you, it's probably the music that touches one's soul, right? Just because
Right.
of the sound. Ambrosia, for example, are soft rock.
America, our boy Cat
America.
Stevens,
Now, Steely Dan
Orleans.
is interesting because they were ahead of so many things.
Yeah,
Like when they released their 1971 album, they sort of, I would argue they created the 70s sort of like AM gold sound,
yeah.
soft rock. But then we have to be careful. Yeah, we should separate, what is soft rock? Doobie Brothers can be called soft rock,
Yeah,
but
and the
they
Doobie,
were not. They
they
were
weren't.
not.
I think
Dude, have
some
you heard the riffs of China Grove?
amazing. Some bands
Wait,
did
wait.
so.
I don't know if you know the song. Wow, 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 no,
Yeah.
wow, wow. Like, dude,
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
amazing.
But
And they
I
even
think,
had Louisiana sound. I think you're an expert on this one, but Black water,
oh yeah,
keep on rolling,
yeah.
Mississippi
Sounds like
roll.
Little Feet. Had
Yeah.
that Little Feet vibe. But I think the thing about these bands is they dabbled with soft rock. Like
And who
even
invented loft rock, Cheech? We gotta look at we gotta talk about that in the
I
episode.
have all that. I have I
I
don't I
love it. I'm so excited to do that. That might be a 5 hour episode. I know
oh,
Mr.
you know who invented it? Oh God, brain fart.
Tom Jones.
Oh, Simon and Garfunkel invented soft rock.
I can see that.
They're the people who the first 1966 album. Well, we said who invented soft rock. Bob Dylan. We
Yeah, he
we
was
know
already ahead of the game.
we
And it's
know
crazy. And because of Bob Dylan's like invention, he
I
invented
mean, it
folk.
was folk rock, but a
You know, and,
lot of the
and Simon and Garfunkel were kind of copying that, but them
yeah
being sort of like New York intellectuals, they're saying,
yeah
how can this man? I don't get it. Like his lyrics are nonsensical. And don't get me wrong, Simon Garf, I can't wait to explore that because I'll be honest with you, their albums are masterpieces. I mean,
oh yeah Yeah.
just listening to Bridge Over Troubled Water. Again, they invented that soft rock sound, and I'm not sure if that's what they were setting out to do. And and I will say, sadly, soft rock does get some hate. I don't know if you would agree from like metalheads
Well, that was like, being a metalhead in the '80s. If someone
or
saw,
Led Zeppelin heads. They hated soft rock.
oh yeah, but Zeppelin had soft rock. So
Well,
go
that's why Led Zeppelin 2 was not well liked
Zeppelin 3, yeah, yeah,
because it was too much. So Led
yeah.
Zeppelin had to figure out, okay, for Led Zeppelin 4, we're gonna begin with bam, 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 bam,
Oh yeah,
bam, bam. Like they just
but
straight up
that's what
riffs, and
makes
then
bands. You gotta have hard. You gotta have hard songs. You gotta have soft songs. You
yeah.
gotta have mid tempo.
Oh, and you know what's funny? I can't wait to talk about soft rock in the 80s, how it got really cheesy.
Horrible. Like
We gotta talk about that.
Richard
But
Mark.
that was the source of the power ballad. Like the
Yeah,
cheesy power ballad that every metal band did.
it turned into the power ballad, like extreme. They did More Than Words, which is a beautiful
You know what's
song.
funny? That doesn't even characterize their music. The one that was kind of funny was Van Halen's power ballads too. I thought they were
Yeah.
kind of funny.
But what's funny about it, and I talk about it in the episode, like Extreme and Mr. Big they had these soft rock songs, right? And these are hard rock bands,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They were on soft rock radio. They were
And again, that would be sort of like the evolutionary steps from AM Gold,
exactly.
right? So folks, we got an excited 5 hour show on AM Gold prepared for you. So get
Yeah.
excited. I'll be honest with you, I think that's going to be one of our greatest episodes.
Oh, I
And
can't wait. I can't wait.
so look forward to that. But Cheech, once again, man, that has been amazing. I think we definitely
Yeah.
covered so much ground and left it open ended in that, the viewer can decide, you know, what's your opinion on the Sam Berkowitz case?
Yeah.
Did he act
I,
alone?
I definitely I recommend, in my opinion, Manny Grossman's theory changed this. It changed it forever.
Right.
His theory, David Berkowitz acted alone. It makes complete sense. He was killing women because he had mommy problems and stuff,
Yeah.
and
I mean, let's
and
be honest. Anybody has mommy problems, you're gonna kill
oh
them.
oh yeah.
I
So
mean,
David Berkowitz acted alone. Manny Grossman proved that 100%. Maury Terry's book is like 99.9. You know, wrong. There might be one or two things in there, some questions, but Maury Terry just took information from people, and Billy the artist. Just that's all I got to say about Billy the artist. That's pretty much everything that Maury Terry did. Is he took that kind of BS from people,
right.
he spun it. Yeah, actually, watch the documentary, because the documentary it's a good documentary, but it's not factual at all. Believe Manny Grossman, because Son of Sam did not act alone. And just a shout out for Manny Grossman. He's going to be on our show. It's going to be a Rush show, and it's going to be a Son of Sam show. And I want to thank him for being on the show. I was talking to him today about some ideas for the Rush
Mm,
albums we're going to talk about. And also, we have Richard Ramirez coming out,
mm,
which is good, which is a really good one.
hmm
And then, probably in a couple months, or maybe in a month or so, we're going to do Jeffrey Dahmer, our
Yeah,
other favorite character, who pops up all the time. He
right,
pops up constantly,
right.
so.
So,
But
can't wait, man.
on that note, great show tonight, Manny. Great to see you, and we'll see you next week.
Cheech, as always, brother, always a pleasure. This has been
Yeah.
amazing, super thought-provoking.
Yep.
And this has been Cheech, the People's Basis. I am
Thank.
Manny. I go by Mr. O.
Yep.
This has been amazing. And till the next one. So,
To the next
hi,
show.
brother. Take it easy.
All right, have a good night. Take care.
You too,
Go
brother.
and go Knicks.
Listen, at this point, I'm just gonna join the club. Go Knicks. I
Go
mean,
Knicks.
we're gonna hear it. We're gonna hear about it.
About it, definitely. All right.
All right, Cheech, brother. All right, peace out.